Hello, everyone. It is 6 o'clock, and so I want to call this meeting to order. Let us start off with our Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance
to
to
the flag
the
flag
Hello,
of the
everyone.
United
States of America, and to the republic
States,
for
which
which
it stands,
one
one nation,
under God, indivisible, with liberty and
and
justice.
justice for all.
Thank you, thank you, thank you. Board, I want you to please make sure that you are reading our norms and that we are following our norms. And due to the public health and safety, the Ferguson Florissant School District Board of Education will use Zoom, a video conferencing tool, in lieu of a face-to-face meeting. Since the meeting will be broadcast live in the district's YouTube channel, the board will read aloud the public comments submitted via email in advance of the meeting. While all of the comments will be included in the board materials that evening and may be found under public comments, the board may limit the number of comments read aloud based on length and repetition. The board will not recognize the public comments at the meeting other than those that have been submitted in advance. Under provisions of the Public Meeting Law of the State of Missouri, the board may adopt by roll call vote an agenda that includes the time, date, place, and tentative agenda for the meeting. A copy of the notice and agenda for this meeting was posted on Tuesday, December 8th, 2020 at the Administration Center, 8855 Dunn Road, Hazelwood, Missouri. At the same time, copies of the notice and the agenda were sent to major radio and television stations, to 3 newspapers, to all municipalities, schools in the district, and posted on the district website. May I have a motion to adopt the agenda as posted?
So moved.
Second.
Please call.
Mr. Ebert,
Aye.
Mrs. Hogshead,
Aye.
Dr. Martin, I'm sorry, I missed that. Dr. Martin,
Aye.
Ms. Bush, Dr. Graves,
Aye.
Dr. Powell Walker,
Aye.
Dr. Thurman.
Aye. Thank you. At this time, we will watch a video of our shared images of success.
So the program is called the Math Fitness Program. It is designed to help build our champions' mental ability to do math, to build their endurance.
My goal, I told Dr. that my goal of this project is to prepare kids to finish calculus in high school.
We wanted to give everyone a chance because our superintendent believes that this is a great opportunity to help our students build those foundational skills in math so that ultimately they can take advanced courses in high school, such as advanced placement math and calculus.
Calculus is the key. The reason is, again, all the engineering, science, research requires calculus as a minimum background.
That my mom and my dad, they always be like, Farah, you like remember this stuff, and it was hard for me to just always look at it off the bat and remember it. But I feel like with the program, it really helped me to remember things, and I feel like now I could just look at a problem and boom, I already know it. And I think that it would help me learn, and it would help me with my problems. And I could, like, on a test, I don't have to be counting on so 1, 2, 3. I could just already know the problem.
Well, I noticed a change when she started testing me, because of what she learned. And she was, when they learn something, they wants to, tell everybody, and my daughter's the type that, she wanted, Dad, do such and such, and so I knew that, with her, it was a plus because she enjoyed learning.
For me, math was like a very, very bad struggle for me because in classes, sometimes math was not working. Like it did not work for me. But overall, when I got into the math program, then I got way better in math, and then that's when I got my A's in math.
I feel the future is bright for my son. I think that this program is setting a great foundation for him. I see him completely excelling now that he has a more of a solid foundation in math. I think math is an awesome tool to take him further and further in the future with his cognitive abilities. So the future looks bright for him.
I want all of my champions. I want them all proficient or advanced in math at the spring benchmark Galileo assessment. And we can't wait to high school to start pushing mathematics. It starts in the early grades. So that's the expectation. Those are the results that we are hoping for at Halls Ferry.
Almost a year in to this pandemic, I've had several virtual teaching challenges. The most overwhelming challenge has been technology. And the way we have overcome that, and I think I speak for everyone, is not giving up and just doing what we can and working through it. And I will tell you that right now, technology is 99% better than when we first started. I love to talk about this. I'm so excited because I have created and developed a relationship with my students. And so every single day after I greet my students and tell them how happy I am that they are here, I make 2 promises to them. So the first promise, and I actually say this, I promise to do all that I can to make sure you are your all-time super duper best. And I promise to do all that I can to make sure you know everything you need to know in order to go to 2nd grade. I'm always smiling. My students always make me smile. I saw one of my students in person, and his eyes got big, my eyes got big, and we automatically had that connection. We were standing outside the school with our mask on, waiting to pick up materials. And just knowing instantly that I had created the bond, even virtually, was so wonderful.
Students at the Innovation School at Cool Valley continue to experience internships and Leave to Learn opportunities with Dearborg's Markets, Collective Catering, Local Mechanics, and several others. Students have learned to make peach cobbler, replace the heater core and blower motor on a 1979 Ford pickup, and were able to virtually attend and get a behind-the-scenes glimpse of a photo shoot. Students also had an opportunity to gain insight on multiple career options associated with each opportunity. New toolkits and reproposed alternators have been donated to our mechanics in training for some hands-on work. These virtual and in-person experiences have allowed students to stay connected and still participate in the big picture learning design. Even this recording has found a way to provide an opportunity for a student with an experience. I am Jamarion, future voice actor and a sophomore at the Innovation School at Cool Valley, where we live by the motto, one student at a time.
Oh, that was awesome. That I have chill bumps. That is awesome. So much going on with virtual learning. Wow. Phenomenal. Okay. Now we're going to have our MSBA update.
Hello, everyone, and welcome to the Missouri School Boards Association's Board Report for the month of December. We thank you for the opportunity to share some news and information during a few minutes of your board meeting. We begin with a look at the continuing impact of the coronavirus outbreak on Missouri's public schools. The latest surge of COVID-19 infections here in Missouri is making one of the most difficult school years ever even more challenging. While nearly all educators agree in-person learning is important to the success of most students, many school districts in the state have had to move to or stay with virtual instruction, at least for some grade levels. Health experts say most schools that have reopened in person with appropriate protocols have not had significant outbreaks within the school setting, and that most of the virus spread is occurring in the community, not in school. Nonetheless, the recent surge has caused more students to be learning virtually, mainly due to staffing issues and the severe shortage of substitute teachers. At a recent news conference announcing new quarantine guidance for Missouri schools, Commissioner of Education Margie Van Deven said some students continue to struggle with virtual instruction.
Some students are doing quite well in this virtual environment, but others do not. And that's despite our teachers' best efforts. We're seeing our families struggle with significant amounts of stress as they try to keep up in a distance learning model of instruction. In particular, quarantine students may have difficulty interacting with their teachers to get the support they need, as many of those educators are also trying to teach their students still in person in their classrooms at the same time. Now, our teachers have been working tirelessly to meet the needs of all students wherever they are. But quite frankly, it's exhausting.
Educators and school board members throughout the state are also increasingly concerned about students who have become disconnected from school altogether as a result of remote learning. MSBA continues to update COVID-19 related resources available on our website. The 2021 regular session of the Missouri General Assembly convenes on January 6th with a legislature that is largely unchanged as a result of the November elections. Republicans retain solid majorities in both the House and Senate, while current Governor Mike Parson was elected to a 4-year term. MSBA Associate Executive Director for Advocacy Mike Reed tells us he expects some familiar issues to be discussed during the session, including voucher proposals and charter school expansion beyond St. Louis and Kansas City.
A number of people have been pushing for vouchers and some sort of tuition tax credits in light of what has happened with the coronavirus and schools not meeting online and meeting virtually. There has been ideas floated that because of the virtual education, parents should be able to receive some sort of payments to help for payment of outside people for tutoring or other situations. And I believe this is going to just be another outgrowth of that. And I think we'll see a big push for that this year.
Reed also says to expect an effort to establish virtual charter schools in Missouri.
If you're using public money, you should meet the same standards as other public schools. You call yourself a public school and you are because you take public money, then you need to meet those same standards. That's where we are. We believe that we could go toe-to-toe with charter schools. Everybody should be on the same level playing field and everybody should meet the same standards. We believe that that's where it should go.
MSBA will strongly oppose any legislation designed to remove curriculum decisions related to virtual courses from the local school district and will support legislation that increases accountability and oversight of charter schools. We'll be keeping you informed on developments during the legislative session through our weekly Legislative Voice newsletter, critical issue alerts, and immediate updates through Twitter. Information on legislative issues also can be found on MSBA's Action Center website. While most Missouri students have access to at least some school-based health services, there are significant gaps in providing those services to students in the state, according to a survey conducted by the Show Me School-Based Health Alliance of Missouri. The first ever Missouri-wide census of school-based health programs reveals 57% of Missouri students have access to at least one health service through their schools, but nearly 400,000 students do not have access to any services. The census shows significant gaps in health services for students in some southeast, southwest, and northwest Missouri counties. Molly Ticknor is the executive director of the Show Me School-Based Health Alliance of Missouri, and she says health services available in the school setting can help keep students in school.
We have parents that have had to leave their jobs to go pick up their student if they're ill or if they have a mental health issue. And sometimes parents can't take off. Sometimes parents have jobs where they cannot leave. And so being able to consent for treatment from the school-based health provider and the parent to serve the immediate needs of that student and figure out what's going on and assess that and treat them on site, whereas potentially they would have had to go home or go to a hospital to get treated. So it really definitely reduces some barriers that our parents and our students face.
School-based health services can include mental behavioral support, physical health, primary care, oral care, and vision care. School-based health programs generally work in partnership with other healthcare providers, such as federally qualified health centers, nonprofit community-based organizations, hospitals, community mental health centers, and local health departments. Many school-based health programs also serve school district faculty and staff, along with families and community members. The Show Me School-Based Health Alliance of Missouri exists to improve the health of children and youth by advancing and advocating for school-based health care. The organization's goal is to ensure all children and adolescents are healthy so they can achieve at their fullest potential. That's it for this month's edition of the MSBA Board Report. Thanks for allowing us to have some time at your board meeting, and so long from Columbia.
A lot of good information. At this time, we're going to go into our public comments. The board allocates this portion of the meeting to allow stakeholders the opportunity to comment on both agenda items and non-agenda items. Due to the meeting being held via Zoom and live streamed at the district's YouTube channel, the board president will read aloud any comments that have been previously submitted. In keeping with district policies 4054 and 4059 and personnel law, any person submitting a comment should refrain from making negative comments that are personally identifiable. While the board will not directly respond to speakers during the public session comment period, the board president may make clarifying remarks at the end of the comment session to correct any misstatements of facts. Responses to public comments can be found in the meetings and agenda section of the district website within 14 days of the meeting. We have 2 comments that were submitted. The first comment comes from Annie Filla, speech and language pathologist, Parker Road Elementary and Cross Keys Middle School. Dear board members, my name is Annie Filla, and I am a speech language pathologist at 2 Ferguson Florissant schools. I wanted to first thank you and Dr. Davis for your commitment to the safety and health of our students, staff, and community. I've been really proud of how the district has handled decisions on the returning to learning so far. I know that you are discussing re-entry at the board meeting this week and would like to voice my concerns about possible re-entry in January. When I read about the district's re-entry plan, it was concerning to me that some of them don't seem to have taken special education services into consideration. There are several issues for special education providers and students receiving those services that I'd like to make you aware of. First, many districts seem to be developing pods of students, quote pods of students, where students don't interact with peers who aren't in the same classroom as them. Because of the nature of the speech therapy and other therapies, the reality is that if students are receiving their special education services in person, they will come into contact with students from other, quote, pods. Due to scheduling constraints, we have to create groups of students from multiple classrooms who all participate in therapy, whether in the same room. Similarly, please consider students who spend the majority of their day in the special education setting, but participate in lunch, recess, specials, and other classes with their general education peers. Again, a quote, pod of students won't work well in this case due to the students needing both general education inclusion and special education supports as mandated by their IEP. Additionally, many SSD employees visit multiple schools and even multiple districts each week. Even with very careful planning and contact tracing, there is potential for these employees to unintentionally spread COVID between buildings or districts due to how many other school employees and students they interact with each week. Finally, I ask that the reentry plans also consider SSD employees' work environments. We often are given very small classrooms, have to share classrooms with several other adults, or have no room at all, which is not an acceptable environment during this pandemic. For example, last year I worked in a very small windowless office within the school library. Social distancing would be impossible, and opening the door to increase airflow would not be an option since I would only be operating it in another closed off room. If plans are made to resume in-person learning, SSD staff and students who receive SSD services must be taken into account in order to make the learning environment safe and equitable for all. Thank you for your time. Anna Filla, speech language pathologist, Parker Road Primary and Cross Keys Middle School. Our second letter comes from Erica Williams, who is a parent. And she states, my husband and I have a 10th and 11th grader with very different personalities and academic needs. Although neither enjoy online school, Cameron, the 10th grader, has been able to push through and earned A's in first quarter. Brandon, however, the 11th grader, is struggling more emotionally and has fallen behind. We began making a plan to get him caught up before the break, and I recall taking online classes. Caught up before the break, and I recalled taking online classes in college. The max I could have taken is 4 classes a semester. Helping Brandon confirmed that 8 classes was way too many, especially during COVID-19, when students have a lot more on their minds than school. Again, although Cameron is pushing through, 8 classes has still been too much for him. I request that the board allow the administration to reduce the number of classes from 8 to 4 in the second semester and keep the Friday available for makeup work. In addition, I also request that the teachers do not increase the workload once the number of classes decreases. Thank you, Erica Williams. Dr. Davis, for Anna Filla, can you tell her who will be getting in touch with her? You're on mute, Dr. Davis.
I'm sorry, I was just talking away too. Dr. Parker will help Ms. Filla, the first the speech pathologist, her and Dr. Knowles. And then Dr. Williams, I'm sorry, Ms. Williams, Dr. Bland, both her kids are in high school, so we'll work through Dr. Bland on that request.
Thank you very much. So you will be contacted by someone from the district to help you with your concerns. Thank you so much. That ends the public comments. And now we will go to our strategic plan updates. This portion of the meeting is allocated for the board to provide an update of current activities and events in the district that may be of special interest to board members and the community. And we will start with our director, Mr. Scott Ebert.
Thank you. I want to thank everybody for tuning in. And my direct strategic planned area is facilities. And if you get a chance, drive by Waterford and Parker, between Parker and St. Catherine, and you'll notice a huge difference where the administrative building used to be, and Probe and other departments. And I can't wait to see what it looks like when it's all done and sloped off and supposedly a green area. So that'll be kind of fun. Also, our facilities people installed a new HVAC unit on the rooftop of Bermuda School, which I think is quite impressive compared to most, shall we say, companies and school districts that bid that out and pay a lot more. So hats off to Terry O'Neill and his group. Dr. Miller Rich Miller and his technology team, as stated in the video, is doing an awesome job trying to keep this all up and running. And I'd like to wish everybody a Merry Christmas. It's been a heck of a year and we're almost at the end of it. So hopefully next year will be a different kind of year. And love all the people you can at Christmas, because we definitely need it. That's it.
Thank you, Mr. Ebert. Dr. Kevin Martin.
Thank you. Again, thank you to Laura for our conversation around finance. Is obviously something that's always of interest to all of us, as it's one of our main responsibilities. And so later today in the consent agenda, we're going to be asked to approve the renewal of music for $2.1 million. Just a note, because there was less claims last year across the state, there is an 8% credit going back to every district. So one can assume because we're not in school, there's not as many workman comp claims and other things that settlements and other things that factor into it. There will be less claims potentially as well. So we could potentially see a credit next year as well, based on several districts not being in session in the fall. Also, the district applied for and was awarded a $25,000 equipment grant for an oven. So they're looking at all the ovens and replacing those at McClure North. So they're looking at that and replacing that. And that was through a grant through DESE, Food Nutrition Services Department. Laura and her team are looking at all the food service options at each school to plan for a reentry at some point in time, whenever that may be, of how breakfast and lunch will happen in each of our schools, as every school is different and looks different. The audit has been delayed. Normally at this board meeting, we would be approving the audit, but due to COVID-19, it has been delayed at this time and will be presented to us at a later date once the COVID stuff they work through and figure out how to make sure they get all the documents they need to the audit through. And lastly, the financial part of the strategic plan 3.0, I think that's what we're calling it, is going to be starting to meet early in January. They'll be beginning to meet their meetings. So that is all I have. And I hope everyone has a safe holiday season for whatever holiday you may celebrate. I do know Hanukkah begins next week as well. And so certainly I hope the new year brings health and safety for all, and certainly a better outlook than 2020 has been. So I wish you all well.
Thank you, Dr. Martin. Ms. Hogshead.
Yes, I'm on the talent portion of the strategic plan. They are still very busy at in-servicing, and staff development, making sure that all of the teachers are able to move forward with our virtual learning. And I would like to say that, and maybe some of you know this and some of you don't, but one of our past superintendents is very ill with COVID right now. He's in the hospital on a vent, and that's Dr. Shearer, Stan Shearer, that was here in the mid-90s. And his wife just passed away 2 days ago. And of course, he's in the hospital and doesn't know it. So it's just kind of sad right now for the Shearer family. So keep them in your thoughts and prayers. And it just shows that COVID can hit anybody, and it does. So I want to wish everybody a very Merry Christmas, Happy Holidays, and next year will be better, up and away. Thank you.
So sorry to hear about Dr. Shear. Oh my gosh. Count your blessings. Tiffany Bush.
So my goal area is for community piece. And I just wanted to say before I start reading here, just give a shout out to Kevin Hampton. Me and Kevin seem to work very well together. And we're always excited about all the things that are happening within the district. So if my report's a little long, I don't want to miss anything. I want to cover everything, capture it all. So I'll be good. So what we have going on right now is, so this goal, it falls on stakeholder and community engagement. And we're working hard to meaningfully engage our students, staff, families, and communities, especially during virtual learning. So our family and community engagement department is continuing to connect students and families to resources. An important resource is access to tutoring. Tutoring resources are available with the academic learning community, support through the Culture and Adopt-A-Block in the Oakmont Townhomes, which is in Ferguson. We're hopeful the Boys and Girls Club will be providing support, and we're pursuing other opportunities. OASIS volunteers have served FFSD children through reading, tutoring for many years, and we appreciate the volunteer service of our retired community members. Excited that this opportunity is resuming. So if you're an older adult that would like to support our students through reading, please contact Mr. Albert Harold in the FACE department. He'll provide more information and connect you with training. You can find his contact information as well as other information at www.fergflora.org/FACE. Let's see, in the coming days, the Stiefel Foundation will be donating over 450 coats for Berkeley intermediate families. I mean, that's what's up. That's really exciting. We're grateful for this partnership and their support for our families, especially in these difficult times. Recently, we kicked off our Friday speaker series for students. It's continuing. Leaders from across the nation are sharing their inspirational stories with our students. One recent speaker, when asked his journey by one of our students, was moved to tears as he shared and inspired our students. This series is providing hope in a time when many are feeling hopeless. Our hope is that more students will take advantage of this opportunity. Let's see, so we've got our mentoring organization, My Brother's Keeper, or BK, has expanded and now includes MBK Junior with sessions on Fridays for Hall Elementary students, and will begin soon at the Wedgwood 6th Grade Center. Our partnership with Earth Dance Ferguson is growing. New farm to school programming to sprout up soon. The latest offerings from Parent University include a series of sessions that were developed as a result of parent requests through a survey of district parent needs. Last week's session featured Boeing workforce information. And this week's session is a Canvas follow-up with our Canvas coordinator, Karen Coogie. We kicked off our strategic planning process with a good evening of feedback from district stakeholders. Please watch for opportunities to continue to be a part of the process of developing the district's goals for our next 5 years and beyond, based on the hopes and dreams of all our stakeholders. We're excited to have our new communications and marketing specialist for our secondary schools, Mr. Levi Matthews, on board. Yay! He is producing our monthly shared images of success videos and has begun reorganizing our YouTube channels to make it easier to find our videos. And that's just a couple of the ways that the Ferguson School District is connecting with our stakeholders. Thank you.
Wow, what a complete report. Thank you so much. We have a lot going on in this district. Dr. Graves.
Good evening, everyone. Happy holidays. I apologize right now. My connection is going up and down, so hopefully I can make it through. I thank Jana for my report. Schools recently completed the second administration of Galileo benchmark assessments. Principals and building leaders will continue supporting teachers during the data team process as they make instructional decisions to improve teaching and learning. Assistant superintendents, curriculum specialists, building leaders, and teachers at the intermediate level have conducted Eureka Math lesson studies, focusing on the critical components of the math lesson and pacing. Lesson studies will continue through the second semester. What else I would like to share? Students from all district high schools have participated in their second Milestone Weber Project PAVE internship. The last session focused on careers in construction. Students will also have an opportunity to open Project PAVE personal accounts and receive Rally debit cards with Electro Savings and Credit Union. Electro, in partnership with Project PAVE, will guide students through the fine points of asset building and will offer banking incentives. Dr. Gerald, principal at McClure High School, is a recipient of the Scott Credit Union Community Foundation With You program. McClure High School will receive $5,000 to support the school community during the COVID-19. Students at the Restoration Center have earned 167.5 credits. 18 students from the center, McClure and McClure North, attended the Boeing Workforce Informational Meeting facilitated by Boeing administrators. 21 students from our high schools have been admitted to the Emerson STEAM Academy at Florissant Valley Community College. Ferguson-Florissant students earned 126 credit hours from Florissant Valley Community College, which equates to approximately $14,000 in tuition costs from St. Louis Community College and $47,000 from UMSA. And it's just amazing how our district is still going strong all due to COVID or during COVID. Thank you so much for my report. I hope everybody got to see my article over this past month. It was a really awesome experience. Hopefully everybody got to check it out. Just thank you. Thank you for this opportunity to allow me to be a representative for the community. One more thing, I am also representing the Ferguson-Florissant School District statewide on, we're working on social emotional learning for the state of Missouri. And what is that going to look like? And so I have been asked to be on the task force. So as soon as I get more information about that, I definitely will be continuing to share that as a part of my report. So I thank you all, and I hope you all finish off this year safe and strong. Thank you.
Congratulations, and thank you so much. Again, I get so excited about all the things that are going on in our district, even though COVID is here. Dr. Powell Walker, you got good news?
I think so. All right. Good evening, everybody, and thank you for tuning in this evening. My portion of the strategic plan is decorum, and of course that has to do with maintaining conditions in our schools, and at this point it's in a virtual space so that we know that teachers can teach and students can learn. My report has been provided to me by Dr. Jameson. I want to thank her for that and for all of the hard work that she's doing. The Student Expectation Code Committee recently held its fourth meeting. The focus of the meeting was to develop an understanding of the 4 components of the framework that will be used to redesign the Student Expectation Code, and subcommittees were developed to begin that revision. The virtual in-school suspension team met to assign design team work groups for both pre-K through 5 and 6 through 12 as a means to create a virtual system to include triage and daily ISS for those students who need it to be implemented district-wide. Schools examine data from school climate surveys to plan support for students within the virtual space. Some of the questions students responded to include whether they like school, if the school has high standards for achievement, if they feel safe at school, and whether they know an adult with whom they can talk to if they need help. 19 of our 22 schools are referral free, with the district having 0 referrals for the month of November. There have been 60 care team referrals district-wide. These referrals have been made as a means to provide more intensive support and planning to our students. And as a further breakdown for you, 45 of those referrals, the area was for academics, or I should say the primary concern for the student was academics, with there being 12, with the primary concern being attendance, and then 3 for behavior. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you so much. And I guess I'm up. I just want to say thank you so much for all of the information that we're getting and how we're working together with our staff to just learn so much about what is going on during this virtual learning. It's just amazing to me how much we're doing. And I just want to say thank you to Dr. Davis, who's our leader in this district, and all that's going on and all the wonderful programs. It's great to hear about kids who are getting their credits for college, all the special programs that are available to our students. You know what, and I just have to tell you why I love this district so much. I know after working in the district for many years and now serving on the board, I just want to just say again, thank you to all of my board members for your support. As many of you all know, my sister was in a really bad accident, but I just want to tell you again how it went from she and her principal going out to serve a family who had been affected by violence, and they were going out to help someone. And during the time, my sister got hit by someone who stole a car and hit her. It was really a bad accident. But the thing about it is that her principal, Stacy Wallington, I just want to say thank you to her, because she was at the hospital. She was supporting her. All the staff members have been calling her and taking care of her. And this is the kind of district that we have. We care about each other. Staff have been asking and taking food to her. The community they've been contacting me. So we are really, really blessed to work in a community where everyone seems to help each other. And then the other person I want to thank is Ophelia Dixon. Now, she was the student who came along to help my sister when the accident occurred. And she is a former student of my sister from 20 years ago. 20 years ago, she was a student at Airport Elementary School. And it's come full circle. And again, it's our community pulling together and loving on each other. And during this season, this holiday season, even with COVID, we still have a lot to be grateful for and thankful for. And as Dr. Martin said, however you celebrate this season, make sure that you hug and love on your family members. You know, the next minute is not promised to any of us. So just watch out for each other, continue to love the school district and do the work it's hard work. Teachers, thank you so much. Thank you for what you do. People think it's easy teaching virtually. It isn't that easy. People would rather be in front of their classrooms. Parents, and I know there are many parents out there who are listening, our teachers want to see your babies and they want to love on them and teach them right in front of the classrooms. But this virtual learning is what we're doing. And even with that, we are making strides. We're doing very well in our district. We're going ahead. We're doing the work. We are doing the work. Thank you for all the staff members who are supporting our teachers. for all of your administrators, everyone involved. I just wanted to say thank you. I want to say thank you to NEA because FFNEA, thank you for your support that you are giving to the teachers, and that you're being a voice for teachers, and we really appreciate you. And with that said, I would like to introduce Lori Sammelman, who is going to speak for FFNEA today. Thank you.
Good evening, board and FFSD stakeholders. My name is Lori Sammelman, and I serve as the ISL at JW 6th Grade Center, and I'm the FFNEA Immediate Past President. This past Monday evening, the FFNEA Executive Board charged me with speaking to you regarding some recent encroachments into certified staff preparation time. During our discussion, several members expressed concerns around increased district and building expectations for teachers, and these include additional PLC time during plan time and the use of board-approved time on Friday mornings. Some of the items mentioned were district-level voluntary PD and required building-level meetings that are being held on Friday mornings, and required grade-level or department PLC meetings that are in addition to the once-a-week meetings agreed upon at formal communications last year. Just to understand why the FFNEA is working so hard to protect this teacher preparation time. FFSD administration and this board have provided teachers with some great tools for distance learning. But each of these tools requires teacher time. Beyond the time spent in professional development and in learning to use the tools, there is the time needed to manipulate current teaching materials into these new platforms. The paper science lab recording sheet our department has used for years needs to be converted and imported into Canvas as a student assignment. The math practice page on the district resource needs to become a multi-slide Nearpod lesson. And the weekly classroom quiz that we've given has to be manually entered into Galileo. While all these are worthwhile for virtual learning, they all take time. It's my understanding that leadership from FFSD and the FFNEA met last night for informal communications, and there was discussion around these items, and that administration is looking into these concerns. The FFNEA looks forward to partnering with administration and the board to ensure that our teaching staff has the time they need to provide the best instruction possible and to allow teachers to well use these tools you've provided for student engagement. I'd like to take a point of personal privilege and wish a happy holidays from both myself and the FFNEA to the board and all stakeholders. Thank you for the time.
Thank you. Thank you. We appreciate you. Dr. Davis.
Thank you, Dr. Thurman, and good evening, everybody. Really appreciate all the hard work that folks are doing in our district. There's a lot going on, and too often we hear of the negative all across the country, and we never take the time to celebrate the folks who are working their socks off trying to make it happen for children. So I too want to echo the sentiments that I've heard earlier to our teachers and all of our employees and those who support teachers, that they are doing an amazing job. I was on a call earlier today with Commissioner Van Dieven. The state board met yesterday and made some decisions around testing, and more information is to come for the community. But I can tell you that we have teachers, not just in Ferg Floor, but especially in Ferg Floor, who are just working hard to make sure children get educated in the best ways possible, given the limited access that they have to children physically and all the other barriers with COVID and so many other things. So I just want to say thank you to our teachers and for those who support teachers as well. Lori mentioned, and I'll say again that, we are partners in this work. It's not an us and them, it's a we working together to make sure that we educate all children well. And I just want to say that again. As she mentioned, we met last night, and we'll continue to work hard to make sure teachers' time is protected on Fridays in particular. That's the reason I asked the board to approve that, was because we want to make sure teachers can work Friday mornings to be able to prepare and plan for students and get that work done. So just know that we are absolutely gonna find some resolution there for you. The big question, I met with parents Monday night in my advisory meeting, and I'll mention that a little bit. The big question on everyone's mind is, when are we returning to school? This past weekend, my wife, my son, and I were out shopping with our masks on and socially distancing really well. We were in the Marshalls over in Cross Keys Shopping Center, and we were buying some, gifts and all. And two students, thought I had this big old head hidden behind that mask, and two students recognized me, and one of them said, "When are we going back to school?" In that tone, but she was, joking with it, of course, but kids and folks are ready. We're continuing to monitor certainly the COVID data, and Dr. Jadala will talk a little bit about that and the conditions. And we're in a time when the numbers right now are incredibly high. You can see the most recent data for our community at the widget on our homepage at fergflorida.org/COVID dashboard. Please go there and get that information. It's updated often. I'm hopeful that after the holidays, the numbers will begin to decline. And with a vaccine on the horizon, it will be safe to return to in-person learning soon. As you know, a week ago, we asked families to declare their students' learning models when we return to in-person learning. Many students and families expressed concerns and a desire for more information. As I share with families this week, we've heard you loud and clear, and a large majority of our families are just not ready to return to in-person instruction at this time with the information that we have. Based on those concerns, we have paused the learning model declaration process until after the break. However, I will be continuing to meet with superintendents as I do every week. We meet every Wednesday across the region. We met this morning. We meet on Thursdays. I meet tomorrow morning with the health department and other medical professionals, the St. Louis County Health Director, Spring Schmidt. The data and recommendations from the CDC and the St. Louis County Department of Public Health will continue to guide our decisions as we move forward. And I share that with parents as we talked about data. The board and district leaders will continue to keep safety as our top priority. As I've been meeting with families and meeting with my advisory council, we want to continue to share that sentiment to our parents and our community. While many parents and students desperately want their students to return to in-person learning, all parents in the meeting agree that safety has to be our top priority, and any return to in-person learning has to follow all those safety guidelines. The virtual learning environment has improved. We know there were a lot of hiccups. It was mentioned on the shared images of success. We've made some improvements, still more work to do. And it will continue to improve over time, we know, but we also know that there's no substitute for in-person learning. We're working to make that happen as soon as it is safe. So please know that, parents, that as soon as it's safe, and my job is making sure the board has all the information they need to make a good decision for our community. On another horizon, in terms of equity and sort of an update there, our anti-racism and equity and social justice work with the Achievement Network, or ANET, is continuing. We met with principals last week, and they will begin leading this important work in our schools in the coming days and weeks. It is good to see this work getting underway and occurring with administrators across the district, and as they begin to lead and take their places in schools in terms of having that conversation with their staffs. We wanted this to be a district-wide effort, and so we're being thoughtful and intentional and deliberate as we have these conversations about race. We've kicked off the strategic planning process. I want to say that more and more because we do want our community to be involved in our strategic plan 3.0. What are the hopes and dreams? How do you want to see our district in 5 years? We have equity as our acronym, from economics all the way to your community. And we want our community to be a part of those decisions that are being made. We want you at the table, whether it be in economics or in quality schools or infrastructure and so on. We want you at the table. We want your voice, students in particular. Last winter, the board approved the refocusing of our strategic acronym to equity, EQUITY. Through our work with ANET, the Equity Committee, and our commitment as district leaders, we will be infusing equity and it being a real part of our work and anti-racism standards into our strategic plan so that equity, anti-racism, and liberation are at the core of our work. I'll conclude by saying that this gives me hope. We as a country have a hard time talking about race. We have a hard time talking about so many issues that seemingly divide us. When we look at people, first thing we look at is their race, then we look at their gender, and then their class. And we allow those things to separate us. But the reality is we have more in common than we do different. My meetings with families and students, I get so much hope in listening to and meeting with our families. And you'll hear from some of them this evening. It is about making sure we educate every child well, our Black children, our white children, our biracial children, all of our children, Native, Hispanic, whomever wherever you're from, we love you and we want to make sure you get educated well. As we move into the holiday season and the start of the new year, 2021 is upon us, my hope for you and for our children and for all of us is that we get through these hard times and that we continue to support each other. We need each other to be successful. And so I'm grateful for the partnerships and the work that we're doing in Ferguson-Florissant. No one person can take credit for this. It's everybody working together. And what I love is that we focus on doing what is right by our children and by our community. I want to wish everyone a Merry Christmas, a Happy Holidays. However you celebrate, I want you to have the opportunity to be with people you love and people that love you so that you can celebrate the season. That is my report. Thank you, Madam President, for the time.
Thank you. You are correct. We have a lot going on in this district that we can be proud of. Next on the agenda, declaration of candidacy for, this is for board information. The 3-year terms of Ferguson-Florissant School Board members, Mr. Scott Ebert and Dr. Courtney Graves, will expire in April of 2021. Declarations of candidacy may be picked up in the office of the superintendent at 8855 Dunn Road, Hazelwood, Missouri, from 8 a.m. to 4 p.m. Due to COVID-19 restrictions, filing will be held by appointment only. The only exceptions are the first and last day of the filing when the office will be open. Requests for appointments can be made by phone at 314-687-1912 or by sending an email to Heike Janice at hjanice@fergflor.org. When you come to file your candidacy, please wear a mask. If you do not have one, we will provide a mask. You will be asked to complete a COVID-19 screener before you come to the appointment. If you declare your candidacy on the first or last day of filing, you will be required to complete a COVID-19 screener before entering the building. More information regarding the candidacy filing can be found on the district website and also in the lobby of the Administration Center at 8855 Dunn Road, Hazelwood, Missouri. Under Missouri law, the first day to file as a candidate is Tuesday, December 15th, 2020. Filing closes at 5 p.m. on Tuesday, January 19th, 2021. School district offices will be closed on Monday, December 21st, 2020 through Friday, January 1st, 2021. The annual election for the Board of Education is Tuesday, April 6th, 2021. A person who wishes to file for candidacy for the Board of Education must be 1, a citizen of the United States, 2, at least 24 years old, 3, a resident taxpayer of the school district, and 4, a resident of the state of Missouri for at least 1 year. In addition, the candidate must follow these procedures: file a declaration of candidacy, file pursuant to District Policy 4013, I'm sorry, just those two, valid declaration of candidacy and filing pursuant in district policy 4013. The Ferguson Florissant School District Board election is April 2021, will be conducted by cumulative voting, a change ordered by the federal court. In cumulative voting, voters can cast as many votes as there are seats. Voters are not limited to giving only one vote to a candidate. Instead, you can give your votes to one or more candidates. For example, in this election, for 2 open board seats, voters can choose to give 1 vote each to the 2 different candidates or 2 votes to a single candidate. So again, that is for information only. And if you need more information, contact our office. The consent agenda. The administration presents the following items for approval under the consent agenda. Madam Secretary.
All righty, payroll teacher and non-teacher, $7,605,871.86. Operational disbursement, $1,682,029.71, for a grand total of $9,287,901.57.
Thank you. May I have a motion to accept our consent agenda?
So moved.
Second.
Mr. Ebert,
Aye.
Mrs. Hogshead,
Aye.
Dr. Martin,
Aye.
Ms. Bush,
Aye.
Dr. Graves,
Aye.
Dr. Powell Walker,
Aye.
Dr. Thurman.
Aye, thank you. Item number 10, math fitness. I think we're going to start with Dr. Parker.
Good evening. I'm going to wait for our screen to get shared here in just a minute. Good evening, board and guests. We are excited to share with you more tonight about the Math Fitness program. Math Fitness is a fluency program within the framework of virtual learning for 3rd through 5th grades to develop basic computation skills in arithmetic necessary for advancing to algebra and calculus in high school. Mastering these skills in arithmetic is indispensable for advancing. In particular, skills in number writing, counting, addition, subtraction, multiplication, and division need to be established by the end of 3rd grade. As you heard Dr. Kimura say earlier, calculus is a prerequisite for physics and chemistry, which are foundations of study in science and engineering. In the US, less than 10% of high school graduates complete calculus, while more than 80% do so in other countries, where calculus is mandatory for high school. The purpose of this project is to prepare students in 3rd through 5th grades in our district for advancing to algebra and calculus before graduating from high school. Math Fitness has been piloted at Halls Ferry since September of the school year with 15 3rd through 5th grade students. All students have shown progress using the program. Our goal is to have students in the program ready for pre-algebra by 6th grade. Halls Ferry would like to continue this work with students in the program through 2nd semester. Dr. Hazel and Dr. Warren will now speak to more of the specifics.
Thank you, Dr. Parker. Good evening, board. As Dr. Parker mentioned, the Math Fitness program develops students' basic computational skills in arithmetic to advance to pre-algebra by 6th grade and calculus in high school. Students work on fluency in computation through a progression of activity worksheets that are timed. Board members, you actually have a copy of lesson 26, the last lesson of the first level, in your board documents, so you can see a sample of the work our students are doing. The project is independent of our math classrooms, and in the virtual setting, parent support has been a very critical component to student success. At this time, I'm going to hand it over to Dr. Warren, who will introduce several of our students from Halls Ferry who participated in the program and their parents.
Good evening, Board of Education and guests. Thank you for having us today. I have the esteemed privilege of introducing our champion parents and their students and their children. We have Ms. Candace and Michael Price, parents of Donovan Price, Mr. Shayla White, parent of Caleb Ward, Mr. Rolando Merriweather, father of Reese Merriweather, and Farrell Welch will also be joining us, a student who has participated in the Math Fitness program. If you would show your screen, parents, and show all those amazing faces that I get to see on a consistent basis. And Ms. White, I see you there. You and Caleb, thank you for joining us this evening. Ms. Price, I see she is here as well. There they are. Okay, Ms. Welch, Farrah, thank you for joining us. Awesome. Thank you guys for joining us. Dr. Kimura, thank you for coaching our champions this first semester. So Dr. Hazel, I don't know if you want to have them say a word right now or you want to talk about next steps.
No, I would love to hear from the students and your experience with the Math Fitness program.
So Ms. Price, I see you first on my screen. You want to go first, and then Farrah, and then Caleb.
Good afternoon. Me personally, I was looking for a program that would help my son Donovan with his struggles in math. And when I heard that Dr. Warren was bringing this Math Fitness program to Halls Ferry, I was ecstatic because I needed something to help build his foundation in math. I watched his confidence level go from here, a D in math, to an A in math. And as a parent, what more could I ask for? I was extremely excited that this program was brought to our community because we felt loved, we felt cared about, my son felt thought about. And I'll let him say what he thought about the Math Fitness program.
I really liked the Math Fitness program. It's really fun, and especially when it gets challenging. But the thing is, sometimes it could get too hard. But like my mom said, at first it was my grades were kind of low on math. But when I found the Math Fitness and stuff, and when she brought it home, it was like a whole new level of success and support inside of math and stuff. And it was really fun, and it really helps me a lot inside of math.
We're grateful for this opportunity.
Okay, Mr. Hampton, Mr. Merriweather says, can the host allow me to access my video? Farrah, you want to go next?
Yeah, do you want to go? I'll go. I enjoy the math program. I knew, well, Farrah she's a child who loves to be challenged. And once she learns something new, she loves to share it with whomever she will talk to or listen to. So she was not struggling in math. It was just a challenge to her. And that's why I like the program. I wish that I would have got to the program when she was in school earlier at a younger age. But I would recommend it for it to be, to start off at a younger age to get the children more involved in math because it's really fun. And I love when she gets to that minute and all of a sudden she done with it and she passes the test. So I think that it's a good program, and it really does help her in her math.
I like the program. I feel that math is something that you will always need to learn in your life. If you're in school, if you're out, it's something that you will always learn. I feel like memorizing all my multiplications, it will help me with the test so I don't be struggling. I will already know the problem from just looking at it.
Automaticity. Thank you, Farah. Caleb and Miss White.
Good evening. I apologize and thank you for this opportunity. I just want to say I enjoy the Math Fitness program. It has definitely challenged Caleb incredibly. It has allowed him to become more confident in his mathematics skills. He has had challenging moments throughout the process, but what it has done is it has allowed him to become confident in using his mental math. A lot of things I work with him about is trying to use the math within, you're using your mental math as opposed to counting on your fingers. I tell him all the time that it's about memorization, and when you do something so often, it just has the ability to stick. So this program has allowed him the repetition to continue to practice daily, and he has become so much more confident, and he has become so much better at counting and not using his fingers. And it's just been wonderful, and I appreciate the opportunity to be a part of this program, and I greatly appreciate all that you all are doing, and I think it's great, and it definitely would be great if it can continue.
Awesome. Thank you, Ms. Caleb. Did you want to say anything, buddy?
Yes. At first when I started, it was challenging, and then I got used to it. I stopped using my fingers, and most of them I use my brain, but I think math is good. It's my favorite subject, but I like the program.
Awesome. Well, the transition from your fingers to mentally means we're on the right track, Caleb. So thank you for sharing that. Mr. Merriweather, I'm glad you were able to get your screen on. Love to hear from you and Reese.
Hey, how you doing? You already introduced me as father. I've been an educator for over 20 years and teaching in urban schools. I know that this is one of the things they need to have to push our young math students to their level of pre-algebra by 6th grade and get to calculus once they get older. I try to preach in my house and to my students. My wife's just walked away, but I always get on her about the number one 4-letter word in the world. And she might say love, but I say as a math teacher, it's math. So I try to push that across to all my students, and even with my child here, Reese, that math is the best 4-letter word. I like to talk about another thing also. When we got it going in the grade school sector, but we need to have some people like Mr. Martin, Dr. Martin. I remember working with him at Hazelwood, and he was one of those guys that made it exciting for the kids, kind of like this program that you have. So if we keep this program going, we have to have people like that to back it up and keep it pushing. So I want to say thank you all for doing this for my son. He is very excited about it. I told Dr. Davis earlier when we spoke last week that no matter what time of the day, if we said, Reese, you got to get your packet out, he was happy to do it, running to get it. Let's get the clock out. He's ready to time and everything. So I like that incitement out of him, and I like that you guys are pulling it out of him. As I get older, it gets hard for me to push it sometimes. So the assistance of the school district make it so much better and easier for us. So I'll let Reese say some things about it.
I really enjoyed the math fitness program. It increased my math skills, and I got better and better at math every time. And like my dad said, math is the best 4-letter word.
Good job. Good job. Yeah, but thanks a lot. I appreciate it. And this is my 3rd child that we have pushed through Ferguson Florence. And I have one that's 23, one that's 18, and one, Reese, is 11. And both of those guys, the college bound ones, are getting degrees in computer science. So they know that they have to get calculus. They have to get calculus. My last son that just went, my middle son who just started college this fall, received college credit from AP classes because he was pushed in the Ferguson Florissant school as he was coming up. Oh, and my oldest son was tied for first for valedictorian when he was a part of Ferguson Florissant also. So thanks a lot.
Thank you so much, Mr. Merriweather. And thank you all my champion parents and champion students for being here. And I'll just add, Board of Education, that the irony of this, when Dr. Davis spoke to me about this opportunity, I said the irony is I just had two of my parents speak to me within the last couple of months about exploring Kumon, because it's not a free program, paying to go and take this opportunity in Ladue. So bringing this opportunity to our district, they were super excited that it was coming right to the district. They didn't have to go outside to Ladue to get this opportunity. So Dr. Davis, we just try to make sure we fit the vision. He's laying it out that he wants kids college and career ready, and that math, as Mr. Merriweather said, is the key. It's the language. We want to make sure our champions are ready to participate in the digital economy that is right in front of us now. So thank you, guys.
I do want Dr. Kimura to say a word or two, but I haven't paid them yet, but I'm going to, because I tell you what, my heart is beaming. Y'all know I love math, and everybody who knows it, I don't make any bones about it. As a math teacher, like Mr. Merriweather, and by the way, Mr. Merriweather, it's in the genes, man. You created some good children, buddy. It's in the genes. Math is it. And I said to the parents when I met with them that my goal is for them to get calculus by the time they graduate from high school. Whether they go to college or not, they need that. They'll have the skill sets they need, and they'll have opportunities for life. But the one word I want to pull out, and the research backs this up 100 times over, one word when kids get math skills is confidence. And when children get the confidence that they can learn anything. I'm telling you now, math is just the open door. I know that personally. But when kids get math and they get they can do anything. And it's our duty to make sure they get that. And you can best believe I'm gonna push it even harder. But anyway, Dr. Kimura, please say a word or two.
Can you hear me?
Yes.
Okay. Well, thank you very much introducing me to school district, Dr. Davis. I really appreciate this opportunity. And I wanted to answer any questions you may have about the program so on. But I want to say one thing. I was so surprised and pleased to see how much your kids could do. And it's really amazing. I underestimated your third grader, fourth grader, fifth graders. And I never expected anyone 15 students can pass the lesson 26. And I wanted everyone to have the sheet in front. Do you have one? Mm-hmm. This addition problem, nine problems, 3-digit addition problem is very difficult. And now I'm collecting the data among the Kumon students and the Kumon centers. And this test, 8 minutes test without any mistake, high school students cannot pass. So far, my data shows 1 student in John Burroughs. John Burroughs is the best private school, probably. And the John Burroughs 12th grader taking a multivariable calculus course, and he's going to Brown as a pre-med. He passed the test, 12th grade. Now, a couple of other 12th graders in Ladue High School taking the calculus AB class didn't pass. And the Kumon instructors didn't pass. Okay. This test is so challenging. I never expected anyone pass this test in one semester period. You need more practice. But Jordan Shields, third grader, passed this test with 5 minutes, 46 seconds. And it took for her 8 weeks to reach this test, this level of addition, which I believe is enough for going to algebra calculus. If you don't pass this test, you need more practice to get to the algebra and calculus. And the third grader passed it. And Caleb, he's here, right? Passed 6 minutes, 18 seconds. And now moving to multiplication. This is tremendous achievement.
Yeah.
No one, Clayton, my kids went to Clayton. I taught Washington University for 30 years. And I did a Kumon center in Ladue for 30 years. So I know what Ladue kids can do, Clayton kids can do. I don't think any third grader in Clayton Ladue can pass this test without doing practice. Okay, that's my excitement.
Yeah. Thank you, Dr. Thank you, Dr. Kimura. And I'll just say that and I'll hand it back over because we get excited about, and I do in particular when it comes to mathematics, but this is a foundational component, I think, of the work itself. So I'm just so pleased that our parents are pushing our children hard, and our children are getting excited about it. And so we feel strong that this is a good foundational piece for the rest of their high school career. Let me just end by saying this, and I'll hand it back over to Dr. Parker, that one of the aims, and we have been having these discussions as we do Strategic Plan 3.0, and I have conversations with other superintendents, not only in this region, but around the country, and you all may be able to identify what I'm going to say next. 6th grade is the bottleneck year, and math is the bottleneck course. And when children are in 6th grade, if they aren't ready for pre-algebra, at a minimum algebra by the time they leave 8th grade, at a minimum, then they're not the ones who are going to get to calculus by the time they graduate from high school. And you, like I know, that the kids who get to calculus by the time they get out of high school are the ones who are getting the scholarships and going to Brown University and whatever school they decide to go, Harris Stowe, Brown, Harvard, wherever it is. They're the ones who are getting those scholarships, getting Gates scholarships and so many other millennial scholarships. And we just want to make sure we give every child the opportunity to be competitive for that. And whether they want to go to college or not is their business. It's our duty to make sure they're ready for it. So with that, Dr. Parker, I hand it back over to you.
Thank you, Dr. Hazel and Dr. Warren, Dr. Kimura, for providing us with those overviews. But I am going to turn it back over to Dr. Warren and Dr. Hazel, because they are going to talk about next steps before we ask for their recommendation.
Yeah, thank you, Dr. Parker. So our next steps is Board of Education. We would love to continue this program with our current students. We would like to be able to add students to the program to complete those first 26 lessons, as some of our champions in the program have already completed. And when we return in person at some point, we would like to provide all the current 5th grade students opportunity with the program.
Can I add one thing about that?
Go ahead.
May? According to my estimation, it takes 2 years to finish developing computational skills necessary to algebra. Finish addition, subtraction, multiplication, division, fraction computations necessary to move to algebra in Clayton School District. It takes 2 years. It doesn't matter how old kids are. Mathematics is unique. I'm not talking about application of mathematics. By the way, Eureka Math and Galileo, the assessment is all about application of mathematics. Instead of teaching 2 + 3 is 5, you try to teach 2 apples, 3 apples, how many apples? That's the application of mathematics, which is important. But application of mathematics will not help kids go to calculus. Creative thinking, critical thinking, problem solving is important for everyday life, but it doesn't help anything to algebra and calculus. Mr. Kumon was a high school math teacher when I was in Japan, Osaka, and he told me word problems are useless to get to the calculus. So he dropped the entire word problem, application of mathematics from Kumon. So Kumon doesn't have any. And my hope is by teaching mathematics first, kids have much easier time to learn how to use mathematics in everyday life, application of mathematics. Problem of the United States math education in the past 100 years is try to teach application of mathematics without teaching mathematics itself. And so I'm hoping in 2 years, kids can learn mathematics, then they can learn application very easily, much easier. If they can do fraction, addition, division, multiplication, then word problems becomes much easier.
Yeah.
You don't need to worry about that. So, so I think 2 years is a good one. If they start first grade, by third grade, they have done. If you start the kindergarten, second grade has to be done. And why you have to wait until 8th grade or 6th grade to start the algebra? No, you start early. Takes 2 years.
Thank you, Dr. Kimura. All right.
At this, let me go ahead.
No, please.
Okay. At this time, the administration is asking for approval of the additional money requested for the continuation of math fitness at Halls Ferry Elementary. Myself, Dr. Davis, and Dr. Kimura are available for any questions you might have.
Thank you, Dr. Parker. Board, this is for action, and it is, they're asking for funding not to exceed $25,000. That's coming out of the general operating budget. So at this point, I'd like to ask for a motion to approve the math fitness program.
So moved.
Second.
Now we're open for discussion.
Dr. Thurman, I have a couple of questions.
Go right ahead. I know what one of them will be.
So I first kind of want to start off with the initial pilot. How many students were in the initial pilot program?
So you mean at Halls Ferry?
Yeah.
So they started out with, I think, about 28 or 29 students, and we have 15 that are going strong.
And what I didn't see in regards, what is the cost per student?
Yeah, so I can have Laura to break it apart, but I think for the 9 months, if you had the 30 students, the whole program, we spent about $6,000 when we initially, about $6,600 so far, and Laura can probably talk more. The additional $25,000 plus the $6,600 we spent is a little better than $33,000. So if you take that and divide it by the numbers of students, we again started out with about 28, 29 students, 28, we'll say 28. So if you divide that out, it'll sort of give you a per cost per student. We can get more. We want to get more students in there. In fact, I mean, we've only spent $6,600 so far. So that's really the number you use, and then we'll get more students in for the rest of the year.
And the initial pilot, how long was that scheduled to be? So what was, when we voted on that initial pilot, what was that time frame was supposed to be from?
You know, so this hadn't been before the board. The board hadn't voted on this.
Okay, I guess I'm a little confused. When we first started, and that was the pilot program, correct? Or when they first started doing it at Halls Ferry, that was considered a pilot, right?
Yes, yes.
So that particular thing that we were doing, how long was that supposed to be for?
15 weeks.
Okay.
15 weeks.
And then what was supposed to be the plan after that? After the 15 weeks?
Well, anytime. I don't want them to stop. But again, I don't know.
So the question, Dr. Kimura, is how in terms of the lessons and how far can you go? Because, you know, this is similar to what Kumon does. It goes all the way through, kids can go all the way through high school with it. I mean, And so tell her the number of lessons that you have prepared and how far can students go.
So addition was 26 lessons. Multiplication is also 26 lessons. Subtraction is about 15 lessons. Division is about 30 lessons. And the fraction, we don't know yet. I don't know yet. But these lessons are already there. And 4 students out of 15, 1/4 of students finished 26 addition lessons in 10 weeks, less than 15 weeks. So I'm assuming the per semester, depending on the number of students, the next semester multiplication and this Jordan, I'm sure will finish multiplication subtraction by the next semester. By the end of a year, I think she will finish all arithmetic, ready to attend any algebra course. So how much time they can spend to make a progress toward fraction and the computational skills necessary to go to calculus.
So let me say it a little different, Dr. Graves. So the aim here is to get students ready for pre-algebra, and we hope that we get them ready for that before they get to 6th grade, which is one of the reasons Dr. Warren mentioned 5th graders, especially if we're in person. The earlier they start, I mean, it varies by student. So there are enough lessons that can last probably 2 years, as he said, but it depends on the level that students put into it and they get out of it sooner. Some students will go faster than others. But there's about 2 years worth of lessons that are there now. It just depends on the student how fast they go through it.
So as a district though, what is our plan? Are we planning to pay this for the next 2 years? Or are we saying that by, like what point are we saying that we're finished? Because to me, right now, we're just voting in segments. And then depending on who's on the board at the time, we might get to a point where the students started, and then we just cut them off. So for me, I would like to know what is the long-term plan for utilizing this program?
Yes, so that's a great question. And quite frankly, the best answer to that is that if we piloted it this year to see how it impacts student outcomes, because I think that's where you measure it all. We have a lot of other programs we've brought in the past from different vendors. Here's one that's been written locally. And then if we go through the rest of this year, so this 1 year, we'll look at the data at the end, and then we'll let the data tell us if it's something we continue on with or not. So at the end of this year, then we will have the data to be able to say, hey, this has had impact on student outcomes, and that we feel strongly that it gives them the math skills they need to continue on. And from that point, we want to be able to have, if the data supports it, in place for schools. So schools can use federal dollars when they write their school improvement plans, especially if math is a goal of theirs and based on what the data is telling them. And so schools can use the program then. And again, there's 2 years worth of lessons. It depends on how fast the students go through it. But I wouldn't want to do anything further than the end of this year so we can look at data to see how it impacts their outcomes now.
So my initial question, basically the answer was the pilot program was 4 years.
Yes.
For the most part. And then we would, I'm gonna wrap up, because my initial, I know when we voted on this, I did have a problem with it just being at Halls Ferry. But it was told that it was a pilot program. So I was like, okay, fine. It's a pilot. So my next question is, in the presentation, we said that we were wanting to add more students. Do we have a number in regards to how many students we're going to add? In addition, since this is virtual, can we open it up to other schools?
Yeah, so 50 is a good number. That's what Dr. Kimura and I, when we first talked about the program, about 50 students is what we really kind of want to serve in this year of piloting. I'm fine with other schools getting it, but I wouldn't want to do anything to other places until we look at what data we get from the end of this year. So this year's investment, let's serve up to 50 students. So that's the most we could serve, because he's working the program. And then also, we have some staff that are working and supporting Dr. Warren at the school. But if we can serve up to 50 students this year, we'll add some more this coming semester. like I said, we start out with about 28. It's not an easy program, but expanding it right now to other schools, I would want to wait until we get the data from this year and let it tell us which direction we need to go in it.
Okay, thank you, Dr. Thurman. I'm done.
Ms. Bush, did you have some? I know your hand was up before mine was. Tiffany, I don't know if you still had a question.
No, Courtney, she asked the things that I was already thinking in my head. So no, I'm good now. Go ahead, Dr. Martin.
Got it. Certainly, I'm a big math person as a former math teacher. I think Dr. Davis hit it head on with the excitement of math is what's critical. And I'm sure there's lots of research out there in either way. And one concern initially I have is that timed math creates a lot of anxiety and negative effects for kids with math who struggle. And so my greater concern is really from a board level. I do not see on our board docs anything about a quote or bid or any information about financial cost. I have a hard time with us just approving a blanket $25,000 without knowing what it gets us and what the contract would look like. Particularly of concern, if we started this in September with 28 and we went down to 15 already, that's a pretty big drop pretty quickly and a large investment that we're making, that we're spending, let's say $1,500 a student, which certainly when you break down the dollars, there's a lot of resources we could do for families for $1,500 each to provide them support that aligns directly with our curriculum. I know Dr. Thurman and I have had conversations before about just the amount of pilots and programs and things we purchase over time. Certainly, I want students to be excited about math and to be well thought of in it. My concern, though, is also that it's only at Halls Ferry, and I get that we need a pilot somewhere to see how it's working. But my bigger concern is I don't know, with the data we have right now, from September till December, almost half the students in the program initially already dropped out. And for us to invest another $25,000 in something, to me is a lot when we still don't know our financial picture. And the impact is pretty costly. Even if 50 students were in it, you're still talking about $500 a student that are in this program. I'm just afraid that, and then really the governance piece of, we don't have any document in board docs to be able to look at to see, here's the contract, here's the cost, here's the information. So for me, it's hard for me to approve anything that just is blatantly giving $25,000 out of our general operating budget in a time of financial crisis without having some more additional information on here. And I apologize in advance for not catching that and asking that question in advance for getting that additional information. I do believe not everything was uploaded when I first looked, and I forget to go back to look. I did enjoy the math puzzle. I did complete it and send it to the rest of the board. So I did enjoy that as a math person. But again, it's just a struggle for me when I'm looking at the data already from September to now, how many kids dropped out of the program, the financial cost to it, and just not having any information about a contract or bid or information for what the cost is really going towards. I'm just not a fan of writing blank checks without us knowing as a board where it's going. That is all, Madam President.
Thank you.
Yeah, and the only thing, the only other thing I would add to that is, so the 25,000 is up to, we've spent about, and Laura, if she's on board, Laura, how much have we spent each month so far? Can you tell us that so that we can say that out loud too? I think that's important because what we want to do is to serve more students. We do know that to this automaticity and certainly the time and anxiety and certainly the research is, there are two camps there with that, but how much have we spent?
It's $2,200 a month, so it's $8,800 so far.
Is that a contract? Because I just out of curiosity, because I think we said we didn't approve anything, so I'm just trying to get an understanding if there's a contract that goes with this. Because I think Dr. Graves thought we approved something, and then we were told we have not approved anything as a pilot. So I'm just curious if this was a contract, if this was an invoice monthly, or what this was for approval.
Yeah, it would. So it's a pilot that I started at Halls Ferry myself, and it's one that I'm doing with the school, or whether that I approved. It's gotten, nothing can go over $10,000 before coming to the board. And so that's why, it's before the board now, because I can't go past that part in my legal authority to start a pilot or to do a program.
Can I say one thing about the cost? About the cost?
Yes.
My dream is in 5 years, you have 10% of a high school graduate finish calculus in your school district. That's reasonable to expect. That's a national average. And how to get there? 10%, if you have a 500 students graduating high school, I don't know how many, Dr. Davis, if you have a 500 students graduating, 50 of them finishing calculus in the next 5 years. How much is it worthwhile? It's national average. Again, I don't think you can reach Clayton-Ladue level of 30%. It's impossible for my estimation, but it's entirely possible to achieve 10%. And in order to achieve 10%, probably by 8th grade, algebra finishing about 20%. And the arithmetic has to be done by the end of 6th grade, 30%. So if you have 500 students in one grade, 150 of them pass the addition test like this, all operations, ready to go to algebra. Then you can achieve 10% high school graduate finishing calculus. And how much would it cost to achieve that? And what is the benefit? Cost benefit analysis you need to do. And Eureka Math will not help to achieve that goal. I know that. I went through Eureka Math webpage, and it's definitely traditional 100 years old American education approach. Try to teach application of math, word problems, critical thinking, blah, 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 and evaluated by Galileo type of the data. And the best performance in Galileo type data will not guarantee to go to calculus. No way. If you do that, American standard should be more than 10%. But actually it's between 8 and 10%. Compared with the China, India, 85% of graduate finishing calculus. That's why Washington University, when I teach graduate school 30 years, most of the research assistants in Washington University are Indian Chinese. And why? I got interested in that. I did a little research, and it's simple. They know mathematics. And they finish calculus and can solve equations. That's why we hire.
Thank you, Dr. Moore. Let's let the board, if there are any other questions they have.
I'm sorry.
Yes.
I just wanted to make a comment that, so we're in the midst of doing this pilot, and of course we're going to be looking at the number of students who started and the number of students who, maybe are no longer participating in the program. But I do think that as we look at the number of students who have been successful, we also have to consider the conditions under which students are learning. So really right now, those kids who were able to stay with the programs are probably our kids who are okay with learning virtually. If our students were in person and could get that more one-on-one hands-on support, we might see that more students would be successful in the program. So I wanted to note that I don't want us to say, well, there were 28 and now we're down to 15, because we have to also factor in the conditions under which, our students are learning.
I would agree with you, Dr. Powell Walker, and that begs the question of, is this the best time to continue with this? I think I have the same concerns that also Dr. Martin had with, I need a little bit more information. It does bother me that so many students dropped out, and I have a question as to why they dropped out. It could be environmental, it could be that they lost interest, it could be, I don't know what the reasons were, but that number's pretty high for students who started off with the program. Where's the data? The testimonials have been awesome. I love to see the faces of the children and how excited they are about it, and parents are informed about it too and can speak on it. I really appreciate that. Where's the data that shows that these students have made progress other than the testimonials? And again, the other concern that I have too is I don't know where the $25,000 is going to be spent, or up to $25,000 is going to be spent. It seems a little costly for me, and also because of the times that we're going through right now. I can understand that this is going to be so beneficial for our kids, but it's only hitting a few of our kids. I'm really concerned that it's just a small number of children having this opportunity. So I have concerns about that too. Go ahead, Dr. Powell.
I just wanted to say too that I have concerns that there's just a small number of students who are having this opportunity also, but I can also envision a scenario where they implemented district-wide and we say, why did you do that? We needed to check it on a smaller scale first and see, was it going to be effective? I think that our kids are learning under some very unique circumstances. I personally, as a board member, would hate to snatch away this opportunity. It sounds like we have some young people who have become excited about math, and I would want to see those young people keep that momentum. And I certainly know that there may be people that would disagree with that, but I get it. We're worried about the cost of everything, but I do think that there are some other things out there that we have invested monies in that maybe were not potentially as impactful as these things. So I just wanted to I guess get that out there, that I hear the concerns, but I also see the benefit for our students too.
I agree.
And I would agree.
Dr. Powell Walker, I appreciate that insight. For me, I think, to go to Dr. Powell or Paulette Thurman, is this the best year to do a pilot when we're in these circumstances where we're not giving everyone, the virtual learners are probably going to succeed more than the ones who are struggling with virtual. So are we going to really get the true data that we want? Because maybe you wouldn't have in a school environment 13 kids drop out.
When
right?
you say true data, Dr. Martin, help me understand that, because we're going to see some data from those kids who are participating virtually. We're going to get that. And my wondering is, might those kids even do better in person, right? This is what they can do virtually, but what might that look like if they were actually in school and could fully participate in learning in the way that they normally do? So when you say the true data, help me understand that a little bit.
To go to your point, I think true data in the sense of, I don't think in a school setting you necessarily have 13 students drop out of a program within 2 months. And so that number might be inflated because of, in my eyes, we would get more true data if we were in person, where we had more control over the variables. I feel like we just have less control over the various variables right now to be able to get sometimes the outcome for that. And I do think there might be data that we haven't obviously seen. We've heard testimony, to Dr. Thurman's point. I haven't necessarily seen data about their progress today. But again, also, I'll go back to me, we've still not been presented anything about the $25,000, how that's made up or billed, or is it just a flat rate of $2,200 a month for 500 kids from Halls Ferry, for 15 kids, just to get an idea financially, what is this financial cost? Is it just a flat fee, or what? Is just one thing from my concern of that's just lacking, regardless of the other data. Thank you, though.
Is there a way that we can table this, come back to it after we get more information on how the money is going to be spent and how many kids it's going to affect, Dr. Davis?
Yes, ma'am, absolutely. We can, bring you more data. Again, I think the amount of money we spend each month, which is about $2,200, I think laying that out, and Laura can give you the invoices, but we can certainly, put all that out and say it. I do think that, starting out, it's important to be ambitious, but quality is more important than anything else when it comes to learning, period, math or otherwise. And, at the same time, I want more kiddos in it. I want more of our children doing it. I want everybody doing it, really, but you've got to start small, and then you've got to cultivate so that students, see success, because success will breed more success. And so that's why I wouldn't want to go any further, just trying to, get more parents in one school. Let's see how that goes. Certainly we've seen our students here who are doing well. The 13 who, or 14 or however many who didn't continue on with it. Again, I'll tell you that, math is one of the hardest subjects, period, that kids struggle with nationally. And to get students those solid math foundational skills, it takes these kinds of programs to get them those skills. And I'm speaking not just from my love and joy of math, but just having been a math teacher. So we can absolutely get you more data that can, make you feel more confident and comfortable with the work itself. I will say that if we had started with 40 kids and had 15, the 15 that are going to be successful, we got to keep pushing. And my hope is that we'll get 10 more. And if we get 12 more, we've got to go with the ones who are going to push hard on it, because what happens sometimes is that if everybody's not doing it, we want to stop. We got to get the ones that are going to go with it. And when we start seeing success with those few babies, more come, because they'll see our students know how to do this work and they can do it. Our kiddos, I think too often in North County in particular, he's mentioning Clayton and Ladue. You got to think about the conditions. Our babies grew up like I grew up, many of them. And there's nothing wrong with them being able to perform at the highest levels. We just got to give them the opportunities. And that's what I strongly believe. So we can get you the data that I think you're asking for. And then if you want to table it until next month, I think that's when the next board meeting is. I do hope that, we can continue to push somehow or another with and keep working with the students that we have.
Yes.
I can't authorize anything over $10,000, right? And so that's why we're here to the board, because certainly I'm gonna follow policy, and so we'll get whatever else you would like for us to get.
Dr. Davis, you can go ahead, Dr. Walker.
Oh, I'm sorry. I just wanted to just say, when you come back to share whatever updates you may have, can you also talk a little bit about what happens with those young people who may not necessarily be a great fit for the program? Maybe the program, it was tried with them and they didn't do so well. I think people would probably like to hear what happens with those young people. Is there another program that they are participating in that's helping them continue? And I know that there is, but I just think that has to be part of the conversation too, so that people know that we are striving to implement what's necessary for all learners and not, just a certain group of students. So if you could include that, I think that would be great.
Great point. Because we do not want to discourage any of our students who are doing well. And I do not want to discourage this program, but we do need a little bit more information. And I hope that you can continue until next board meeting with our students. And then we will, if you come back with more information, we will feel better about approving that up to $25,000. That is my thinking. So any other comments?
I need a motion.
We have a motion, so maybe we need to vote the motion.
I just need a motion to postpone this item.
Right, but if we're already under a motion,
I'll let Lisa explain it, but that motion just goes away. The motion to postpone will override that.
Right. Dr. Thurman, a motion to postpone would take priority. So if someone makes a motion, and it should have a specific date or time. So I would suggest someone makes a motion to postpone it until the next regular meeting. And if that passes, then that takes priority, and then the motion on the table would just go to the next meeting.
Okay, thank you so much. May I have a motion to postpone? Okay.
postpone till the next meeting.
Second.
Okay, so the motion is to postpone it to the January 13th, 2021 board meeting. Mr. Ebert,
Aye.
Mrs. Hogshead,
Aye.
Dr. Martin,
Aye.
Ms. Bush,
Aye.
Dr. Graves,
Aye.
Dr. Powell Walker,
Aye.
Dr. Thurman.
Aye. And I want to again say thank you to the parents and to their students, our little scholars. We appreciate you coming on and sharing. It was very, very touching. You did a very good job. You spoke very well. And we're very, very, very proud of you.
Can I get a point of clarification, please?
Sure.
I'm a little confused. The 15 weeks, is that up now? Or is the program stopped right now that Dr. Davis approved?
Dr. Davis?
Right now?
No, so Dr. Kamar can speak, but they're still working. And what we'd agreed to was the $2,200 a month and the work that he's doing with, so it can go again a much longer time.
Okay, I just wanted to make sure they were going to get that for the next 4 weeks till we decided again. And that's what I was trying to sure. Okay, thank you.
Yeah, and that's the question I asked. Same thing I asked Leslie, will this continue until next month? So, and I feel good about that we can continue without the board making the decision today. So thank you so much for everyone. Dr. Kumar, thank you so much. We appreciate your support and your input.
I'm pleased. I learned a lot.
Thank you.
Thank you, parents. I appreciate you.
Yes, so much. Okay, let's go on to our next topic. It is Red Tail Cadets Pilot Training Program with Kevin Hampton.
Good evening, board.
And for board information only.
Yes. Good evening, board and guests and our viewers on YouTube. The Ferguson Florissant School District students will have the opportunity to participate in the Red Tail Cadets Pilot Training Program. 6 students will earn a pilot's license, experience mentoring from regional leaders and executives, and mentor our younger students as well. The program will cost approximately $10,000 per student, but has been fully funded by the Crossing at no expense to the district. And at this time, I'd like to ask Anthony Myers from the Crossing to share a little bit more about this program.
Thank you, Kevin. Thank you, Dr. Davis, Dr. Thurman, and distinguished members of the board. It is something that we've been working on for the past couple of years. So let me back up. And the end result is getting students pilots. But this began as a journey a couple of years ago. I have the great fortune of traveling kind of around this globe. And 5 years ago, I was in Zimbabwe and I was telling somebody where I was from. And when I got there, I said I was from St. Louis. And the first thing somebody said to me was Ferguson. And they didn't say it in a very positive way. And so that kind of struck me that all the way across the earth, they still knew what was going on. So last summer, I was back again, and I've been every summer. And I'd like to share one picture with you if I could, share a screen with you if I could. And can everybody see the screen?
Yes.
In between traveling from Rwanda to Tanzania, we're on a small plane. And on that plane, I had the great fortune of these 2 pilots. The gentleman on the right-hand side, his name is Griffin Osoro. And it was amazing because in the middle of nowhere, landing in Tanzania, these 2 pilots, 2 African-American pilots in their late 20s and 30s, very professional and doing what they were doing. And one of my friends was sitting next to me as a pilot. And then I asked them, do they know what they're doing? And it was kind of too late to ask because we're already in the air. But he said, yes, they do. They're very good at what they do. And what I told him as we were flying into Tanzania is I told him I want to teach kids from Ferguson how to fly. Because if they can do it in Africa, they can do it anywhere. And it'd be a shame for students who can look at an airport in their own city, many of who have never flown, never been to that airport, but to be pilots will change their life. It becomes a generational change. So that began that journey of how do we do this. So the Red Tail cadet program is in the legacy of the Tuskegee Airmen. And what our goal is, we will start an application process next month for 6 students, looking for some of the best and brightest that Ferguson-Florissant has. Individuals who who have a penchant for math and science and engineering, who test well. It's going to be a strenuous program to be a part of, number one. And I think it's so important that not only will they become pilots at the end of the program, but they become ambassadors not only for the school district but for this region. When you look at individuals, and my goal, as I told Dr. Davis, is that when they finish the first day of school at every elementary school, there should be one of our pilots in their uniform greeting elementary school kids, with those kids looking at them and recognizing, I want to be like them rather than somebody else. And so in a partnership with Elite Aviation, which is the flight school at Spirit St. Louis Airport, they are the flight school that we're in partnership with, and they will be doing all the teacher training. This is a program that will start late spring with some online information, and then fully engulfed into the summer, where it is a semi-residential program for them. And they'll do their solos and get their student licenses. They will additionally, we're going to wrap around a number of our partners to ensure that they have all the tools they need to be successful, not just as a pilot, but in life. And so we're really focusing on teaching them about financial management and speaking ability, so that when they have the opportunity to graduate, they have everything available to them. What I've noticed is that those students who are pilots in other areas, they've started getting scholarships and going to engineering schools and doing things that ordinarily they did not have access to. So my goal is, how do we give them more access? How do we create opportunities? And how do we create ambassadors for not only the school district, but for the city itself? Hopefully you'll all receive the one pager we have about the program. It is a strenuous application process and interview process, but our goal is to get them plugged in place by mid to late January, February, start orientation in February, and by springtime, they will be introduced to the community and start their program. So I entertain any questions that any of you may have.
Board members, any questions?
I'm just kind of interested. How long does it take to actually take the helm? 3 years, 2 years?
Oh no, it's less than that. They'll get their student's license in their solo this summer. And the goal is to push farther than that for those students that get through that have the acumen for flight to push them towards a commercial license. And so we have a number of individuals who are flight mentors that will mentor them through the process and kind of push towards what that is. There's a whole world out there, a flight world, an aviation world that's out there that they'll be exposed to. So I think it's a marvelous opportunity.
Can you just share with our audience, our parents, what age groups are you looking at?
These would be 9th through 11th graders. They'll be 9th through 11th graders. So those individuals who are applying now will be could be, they're applying now in 11th grade year, could be rising seniors next year.
Right.
They're giving them 1 year, at school. And so part of it is we're also equipping them to be in a public speaking role, not only to students, but to community leaders about what's possible for math and science, what's possible when you give kids an opportunity. I was so inspired by the young people you had on earlier and their math acumen, because I think that will set them apart. And it really focuses on, because once once they see somebody like this, they see these pilots, it changes everything. And so I've been in contact with Griffin, and I'm going to connect him with some of these pilots, future pilots, cadets in the future, because they all need mentors. And my thing is, if Griffin can do it for a kid that grew up in Kenya, looking into the sky and saying those things up there, I want to fly those. If he can do that there, we can do that here.
Phenomenal opportunity.
Yes.
Mr. Myers, I just want to say thank you. Thank you for giving our district this awesome opportunity. I hate my child can't take advantage of it, but I just want to say thank you so much. It's things like this that people give back to our community that makes our job so much easier, but it's just a wonderful opportunity. So I just want to say thank you.
Thank you. It's my pleasure.
Yes. And also the fact that you thought about how you felt when you said something about St. Louis and they went right to Ferguson. And we've got to change that narrative. And so we really appreciate you thinking of us and giving these students this absolutely awesome opportunity. So we want to please keep the board up on what's going on and your selection process and who's selected. We want to honor them, and show them at the school board meetings. And so just please keep us informed. And thank you again from the bottom of our hearts.
Well, thank you for, and Dr. Davis and Kevin, because I rolled it out to them last year. COVID kind of happened, but I looked at that point as COVID not as an obstacle but an opportunity. So we revamped the program somewhat and really pushing it forward. And I really believe that we get to recast the narrative of what people think about when they think about Ferguson, what they think about of kids on the north side of town, what they think about kids doing things that are untraditional. And
Yes.
there are huge opportunities for them. And I think exposure is everything. And we're going to expose them to a world that I think at this point they can't even imagine.
Yeah. I was hoping that COVID would not interfere with this.
No, and we've got a couple of our advisors who are doctors and flight instructors. And so even if we're getting to the point of into the springtime, we're looking at whether it be vaccines, rapid testing, what it takes for that to happen. We're going down all those paths. So
thank you.
Yeah, I just want to say, how excited I am. Pastor Anthony, Pastor Greg at the Crossing, and they've been thought partners with Ferguson Florissant for about as long as I've been here. They've done some great work. They've done some mentoring, some tutoring, given us lots of support, through so many things. And so I'm just grateful for him and the work that they do in the community, period. They are, I think, largely in Chesterfield, but, they have a huge congregation, but they believe in giving back to the community. And this is a testament of that, because it's not going to cost the district a dime. And I love the fact that, they have thought about our children, because, all children deserve an opportunity. And, at the end of the day, what we want is all of them to be successful in life, period. Whatever color they are, wherever they come from, they deserve that chance. So thank you, Anthony. I really appreciate you, man.
Thank you.
Dr. Day,
My pleasure.
I'm sorry, Madam President, is this a good time for me to ask a question, or are we in some time?
Yeah,
Okay.
this is for information only, so yeah.
Okay. All right. So Dr. Davis, I love the program, and Mr. Myers, thank you for bringing it to the district. I think it's definitely something our students would benefit from. One of the questions that I have is, it sounds like Mr. Myers said that there will be 6 students, like 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. So I wonder about how equitable, like what is that process going to look like to select students? And I'm just going to put it out there because I know that community members may also already be thinking about this. Sometimes there are opportunities that come into the district, and it seems like there are certain parts of the district, whether it is their perception of it, or if it's true, that don't always feel like they have opportunities to participate in certain things. So I'm just, I guess, wondering, or at least wanting some assurance that we're going to have a process of selecting students that gives, you know, an adequate opportunity for students across the entire district. Because and again, you know, people hate to hear me say this, but I'm newer to the board. And so there may be some buildings in the district, and again, this may be perception, where people feel like there's a certain level of instruction that goes forth. And so then if that's true, then there are some kids who will automatically have a better shot because they were in that building. Does that make sense? So I don't know how accurate any of that is, but I know that the perception is out there. So I just feel like it's important to make sure that the community knows that we're going to do everything we can to make sure that everybody has an equal shot at this awesome opportunity.
Well, what I can tell you is that I don't know the buildings you're referring to.
Sure.
For me, when students apply, and it's a lengthy application process, and it's going to be a lengthy interview process, a multi-stage interview process. And our goal is to pick the best students. I don't care where they come from. Criteria, they have to be.
I understand.
They have to be a part of the district, but
Yeah.
where, you know, the evaluation is coming from advisors within the ABH community that have nothing to do with the district. So,
And Mr. Myers, I understand that this didn't have anything to do with your process and how equitable it is. Dr. Davis, I'm sure you know where I'm going with this. So it didn't have anything to do with you, Mr. Myers. I'm certain you're going to do what you can, but I just wanted to, that's more of an in-district, in-house kind of a thing that we just have to make sure we manage.
Yeah.
So that's why I wanted to ask Dr. Davis to speak on that just a little bit.
Yeah. You know, that's a great question you raised, and equity is at the center of all of our work. I won't say which, I have had a conversation about that this afternoon with the board member about equity and making sure that we have, you know, thought about it. It's like the STEAM schools, for example, and the process we've used and the application process there, right? And now we have 4 high schools, right? We have Innovation, STEAM High, McClure, and McClure North. So we'll absolutely, with 6, you know, slots there, look at what is equity and have representation from all parts of the school community. I think is where you're after. And I can tell you that I believe we have the quality of students at each one of those schools that will meet the criteria needed. And we'll make sure we, you know, follow that process. We'll do the same approach with STEAM. I want to make sure no child is left out who is interested in putting their name in the pot, and that we are fair. But I totally understand what you're saying, and I will I'll work closely with Pastor Myers to make sure that we provide that equity.
And Dr. Davis, I hope you know that I already believe everything that you said, but I felt like it needed to be said. You know what I mean? It just needed to be put out there. So thank you.
Because often, you know, people think but won't say it, and I'd rather you say it so that we can that we're being fully transparent. Because we want to make sure all kids get, you know, the opportunity. And not all of us want the same thing. We want every child to get a quality education, every one of them. And whether they go to college or not, that's up to them. But we want them to be ready to if they decide they want to.
Right.
Thank you.
Okay, well, thank you so much. Thank you, Mr. Myers. We appreciate your presentation, and we look forward to hearing from you.
Okay, thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you, Kevin.
You're
So
welcome.
we're going to move on to our Equity Committee update, and this is for board information. Members of the Equity Committee will report on the subcommittees and provide an update to the board.
Good evening, Madam President, members of the board, and Dr. Davis. Appreciate giving us the opportunity to give an update on just some of our work and the exciting work that our committee has been a part of. And we know that we are working diligently to make sure that we provide equitable opportunities for students throughout the district. I'm here as Craig Maxwell. I'm representing our committee. We have many of our committee members joining us also online and through YouTube. And definitely want to give a big shout out to Dr. Graves as our illustrious leader and the support that she's provided us, and also the continued support and involvement of Dr. Thurman along with that too. I'd like to just kind of walk through some of the work that we have been involved in over the last several months since our last update. One of the things that we're definitely really excited about is our district equity lens and the adoption of the school board of that equity lens. We feel that it is definitely going to be a guiding principle for not only our equity committee, but also for the work throughout the district. And definitely in the discussions that we have heard tonight, we see that the board members and members of the district are using that lens through all of the work that they are doing too. So we appreciate that. We also hope that it will continue to drive the work of the new district strategic plan. And we look forward to maybe using this as a district equity audit to kind of look at things throughout the district and look for areas of growth that we could have. As Dr. Davis had shared earlier, the continued work of ANET, or the Achievement Network, is continuing for all members all staff members throughout the district. We had ongoing training on November 3rd, and that was followed up with training with building leaders on facilitating discussions within their own schools so that that work continues and the conversations become more a part of who we are. So far, the training has focused on knowing and sharing our why and how our unconscious bias intersects with the equity work that we are doing and how it manifests in our own practices. In our last training, we really focused on moving towards naming our own commitments for active listening, especially with our own students. And so now we would like to use some of that active listening. I know it's been a long day for many of us and a late night, but hopefully you can turn your active listening to one of our great students that we have too.
I am Leilani and I am hardworking. I am dedicated and I am passionate. What motivates me towards a better education is my peers and my own success in life. I want all the barriers placed against us by prejudice in this country to be gone. I don't want us to have to work 10 times harder because of the way we were born. I don't want us to have to worry of our mere existence. I was asked the question, in what ways is anti-racism important to me and why? And honestly, this is an infuriating question. I am Black. I am African American. For those who are not African American, specifically white people, motives toward anti-racism might be different. It might be because you have Black friends, or because you work with Black students and you feel pity for us. Well, our motivation is a gun at the back of our heads, waiting to be shot, going to school and being called a slur, a constant looming worry. That is my motivation. That is the importance of anti-racism to me. The efforts that this district is taking and its staff are notable. But what I would ask is that in classrooms, we properly educate and converse about the systematic racism that takes place everywhere in America. It is an uncomfortable conversation at times, but that small discomfort is nothing compared to what people of color have to face every day in this country. We must properly educate our teachers on the long, tragic history of our country, back to the roots. I am Leilani, and I am the future Congresswoman of the 1st Congressional District of Missouri.
I know for many of you, as I listen to Leilani, it's a reminder that the work that we do around equity is really about our students and empowering all of them to really be whatever they aspire to. Our own committee has also been dedicated to doing our learning and continued learning. The last meeting that we had a presentation from a group from the Forward Through Ferguson. And they shared some information from their report titled Still Separate, Still Unequal. And that report really kind of focuses in on the institutionalized racism in St. Louis that has led to educational disparities and how this system still exists today. And really started to lead to a discussion that we had about what we can do as a committee to try and dismantle this systemic racism and how we can really be a committee that is a change agent in the racial equity work, not only for our district, but throughout the region as well. We also have several subcommittees that are continuing to do their work within our larger committee, and this is to help kind of focus the work that we are doing. Our committee that is focused on safe and trauma-informed work, they have really looked at the district-wide programs, really the 3 programs that are really impacting equity, which is the social justice, the trauma training, and restorative practices. And they have tried to kind of make those connections between the 3 work that is going on and how it supports the overall district's goal of equity that we have. They've created the following infographics that kind of provide that connection for those 3 programs and the intersection within those 3 programs. So I'd like to share those with you and kind of talk through what those look like, and look forward to using these throughout the district. This is one of their infographics that they had, taking the acronym of equity and then moving it down through the social justice and a description of what that is and the leadership behind that. Again, with the trauma training that is going on throughout the district and the leadership and the work that is going there. And again, the restorative practices work and the leadership that is going on with that work too. And in this next infographic, then you can start to see how they have kind of shown the interconnection between all of that work. I think this is really important because we know that we don't want this work to appear to be working in silos, and that we want to be very explicit about how this work connects together, how it supports each other, and how it really is leading all towards that district-wide equity work that we have. So that has been the work of the Safe and Trauma-Informed Subcommittee. We have also had the Student Expectation Code Subcommittee, and they have been heavily involved in the restart and reboot of the district SEC committee work. This committee work, as Dr. Powell Walker had shared, they have really kind of restarted things and really kind of, I would say, refueled the work that is going on to build that new SEC. And so far, we have really focused on building our community within our group, and also to try and ground the work in a collective purpose and a collective why. Exploring the mindsets and beliefs that we have as a committee behind behavior, so that we can kind of move the work forward in a collective way. This has led us to kind of take a deeper dive into the understanding of the SEC framework that we will use to develop the new SEC. And then to really do the work, we've divided into subcommittees to focus on different parts of that framework. Our committee will continue to work on the prevention and intervention and supports intervention strategies and discipline processes to include more restorative practices throughout the new SEC. We also, just as an overall committee, continue to look at just district equity initiatives and look how we can provide support for those different initiatives. One of the initiatives that is going on that Dr. Powell Walker mentioned too was the transition of ISS. Especially during this virtual world, we want to make it more of a restorative approach so that we can be supporting our schools, particularly in the setting that we are in now. We also are making sure that we are a strong advocate and participants in the new district strategic planning process, and making sure that our committee members are heavily involved in that. And we want to continue to address inequities throughout the district and in our community, again, to provide equity or equitable opportunities for students throughout the district. So again, thank you for allowing us the opportunity to share. I want to, again, thank Dr. Thurman and Dr. Powell Walker, and definitely Dr. Graves for her continued leadership. And we hope to look forward to her continued leadership for many years to come. And if there are any questions or comments, we'd be happy to answer those.
Thank you so much for this presentation. A lot of good work going on. I'd like to turn this over to Dr. Graves and let her make comments.
I just want to say, on behalf of the board and just my personal astute thank you for my wonderful, wonderful elite team. Just wonderful. Keep up the good work. Just making sure that equity voice is heard around the district is so imperative as we continue to move forward. And I really like that infographic, and we need to make sure we can pass that on so we can really pass that through the whole district, because on a constant basis, we always say, how does this fit together? how are we doing all of these different things in our district, and how does it fit together? And I believe that infographic really speaks to that. And so being able to get that in front of as many people as possible, I really think that's to be one of our next steps. Leilani, was it Leilani?
Oh my
Oh
God.
my God. Oh my gosh.
How proud.
So proud. So proud to be serving her. That first congressional, oh my God, it was beautiful, 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 beautiful. I just thank you guys for continuing to put student voice out there as well. So thank you, Craig, for taking the initiative too to go ahead and do that for the entire group. And I know my committee members are on here, so thank you.
And Dr. Davis, I just want to say tonight we have heard from so many phenomenal students. I think it's really important that we hear a little bit more during our board meetings from our kids, because that's what who we're here for. And I've just been so impressed by each and every one of them who spoke tonight. So I think we should work toward that and maybe have something. I know the shared success video is great, but just hearing them to speak and speak well and to present themselves to the board, I think is awesome.
I totally agree with you, Dr. Thurman. And, you know, I'll just say this, and we said it some in our superintendent's meeting, we were meeting with Commissioner Van Dieven, that we always hear the negative stuff, right? And
Yes.
then bad news travels 10 times faster than good news does. And what happens is our kiddos and teachers who are knocking it out of the park every day. I mean, you saw like you said, the share images of success. We have teachers every day who give it way more than is required, and students as well. And we don't highlight them enough because, you know, we wouldn't be where we are, and we absolutely got more to do. But I think we're on our way. It takes time. COVID has certainly thrown a monkey wrench in it for all of us. But you're right. We have so many great teachers and students who I told Leilani she has my vote, and I'll be her Secretary of Education.
Yes.
To the presidency.
I would love to meet her. Any other comments or questions? Thank you, Equity Committee. Thank you so much. Appreciate you. At this time, we're going to do a special school district partnership agreement. And we're going to have Dr. Tanya Knowles and also Dr. Parker, who's going to present to us.
Good evening, Dr. Davis, Dr. Thurman, board, and guests. The SSD Educational Partnership Agreement is an annual document that outlines how SSD and partner districts, in this case Ferguson Florissant, will collaborate and share responsibility for providing equitable and seamless services characterized by mutual cooperation and responsibility to every student. This collaborative model includes expectations specific to 10 categories: staffing, professional development, clarification of responsibilities, student services, collaboration to enhance continuous improvement, access to student data, transportation, technology, space allocation, and career technical education. Questions regarding implementation of the components of this plan in the Ferguson Florissant School District may be addressed during this presentation. The purpose of this presentation is to provide a broad overview of the SSD partnership, which the board received earlier, and to answer questions regarding the implementation of the partnership agreement in Ferguson Florissant. A bit of background before we get into the document. Two functions of SSD is to provide special education services for all St. Louis County students with disabilities and to provide career technical education for area high school students. Unique aspects of SSD is that we have a governing structure which is the governing council, and it's made up of one member of the Board of Education from each of the 22 partner districts that we support. The governing council is tasked to approve SSD's budget, approve SSD's CSIP, and to elect the members of the SSD Board of Education. Another unique aspect of SSD is that we have an educational delivery model that consists of special education services and career tech ed. In the partnership agreement, as I've already covered, it goes over those 10 components and how we will partner together to make sure that services are provided to students with IEPs and those who are at risk of failing or being referred to SSD for testing. In 2018-2019, SSD assembled a committee to review the partnership agreement. Therefore, that process, coupled with challenges and changes to leadership and school closures, caused a delay to what we collected annually, and that was data regarding how we are partnering. So for this reason, this data that's in front of you is from spring of 2018. At that time and in years prior, both SSD and Ferguson Florissant teachers and administrators were asked for feedback regarding how well the partnership agreement was being implemented at the building level and across the district from their perspectives. On average, administrators and teachers responded that there are some structures in place to ensure that SSD and Ferguson Florissant are collaborating in the 10 categories listed, with category 1, staffing, being an area that is of most concern. Teachers felt more confident that we have some approaches in place and that what we have in place is being implemented almost completely, moving towards having positive outcomes. Considering that data, coupled with the committees that our SSD staff serve on in the buildings, as they are part of CORE, a part of the SEC committee, care team, design team, the ILTs, the PLCs, the professional development committee that is responsible for designing professional development across the district and at the building levels, and the information that we receive back as we are partnering area coordinator and principals and at the cabinet level. There are some opportunities and deliverables that we are focused on this year and working towards improving that fall under those 10 categories listed. The priorities here are in staffing, clarification of responsibilities, student services, professional development, and again, student services is on there twice. So staffing, this is an area that we need to partner better, basically based on the feedback, where we can ensure that we have Ferguson Florissant staff representation on our interviewing and hiring panels, and Ferg Floor have SSD staff available to assist in hiring for Ferguson Florissant. This year, we have 2 social workers that were allocated through disproportionality funds for DisPro, and they are assigned to our targeted schools. So we have 1 social worker that's assigned to McClure High School and to Ferg Middle, and we have another that is assigned to McClure North and Cross Keys. Regarding clarification of responsibilities, there is an opportunity for us to partner a little bit closely around purchasing curriculum. This year, as we are in this virtual space, we looked at the data, and the data informed us that we were having some issues engaging students, and especially students that had significant disabilities. Therefore, we purchased some programs that would allow the teacher to control the student's technology and to be a little bit more creative in engaging students That is Nearpods. Nearpod is one of those. Great Minds, IXL, and we completed the process this year for creating an integrated tiered systems of support, which will be rolled out through the data team process and the care team process. Area coordinators are also participating in quarterly data dives with the building administrators, and they are responsible for keeping pretty elaborate data dashboards where there is constant monitoring of students' performance in those core areas and on the assessments across the district. Regarding professional development, we do collaborate with the director responsible for designing professional development for Ferguson Florissant. We have an area coordinator that sits on that committee, and also staff. So when PD is being rolled out, there are opportunities for us to collaborate, and if there is a need for, say, with the math curriculum that's being rolled out, to maybe focus on differentiated instruction, our staff is utilized to do that. There is an opportunity, however, for FERCLOR to benefit more from the expertise that SSD has to offer around facilitation of IEPs, and for us to be a little bit more collaborative. And this is one of Dr. Davis's real concerns that we've discussed, and that is around writing standards-based IEPs. And we have done a lot of work around that, and the data shows that gains are being made by our students as a result of it, and teachers are working closer together because they see the alignment between their work now. Last year, we had planned to provide a summer school program that is more geared towards students that are at risk of failing, or students that could possibly end up being referred for testing through SSD. However, due to the closure, we were not able to implement that program, but what we were able to do was to collaborate with our FERCLOR partners and provide more support for our seniors towards getting them graduated. And every year, I am proud to say that that has been, we've made great gains in that area. Students with IEPs are graduating at greater rates. And so at this time, this concludes the main portion of this presentation. Administration is requesting approval of this agreement.
This is for board action. So at this time, may I have a motion to approve the special school district partnership agreement?
So moved.
Second.
Discussion.
A question that I have, I really liked a lot of the things that I saw on the deliverables slide. And I just wondered, are there going to be some checkpoints during the year where we can assess how we're doing with progressing towards those things?
Yes, ma'am. We do have processes in place, and I'll go back to that slide to monitor our work, or our presence on the teams that are in place to support all students in implementation of interventions across the district and across school levels. We also make it a point to work with the team to monitor constantly the data, the numbers of males to females we have coming into special school, well, that are being referred for IEPs, and to take a deeper look at why and provide some interventions in advance. And so for that reason, we are working closely with Benita on CORE and with her also on the care team, design team, because it's imperative that we have those types of data team processes in place so that we can put safety nets in place for all students, and also maybe to decrease the rate of students that we see being referred. And as a result of our work, it's been slow to come, but as a result of our work, there used to be a time in FERCLOR where at least 50% of the students that were being referred for testing, they came back not eligible for an educational diagnosis. But because we do work so closely, especially administrator to administrator at the building level, those interventions that are required are in place. And so usually when a student is referred for testing, they do qualify. However, we do have some that do not, and we are trying to develop ways to utilize that data that we get back, that information on those specific students from that evaluation process, which is lengthy and costly, too costly to just be tossed in the trash. We're developing processes to utilize that information so that the gen ed teachers can then begin planning to put some supports in place for those students in the gen ed classroom. And especially now that individualized plans are being required even for gen ed students.
All right, thank you.
Madam President, as you know, I have something, but I want to see if anyone else had any other comments first. Okay. So just so you all know, I wrote it out so I can be succinct and concise as much as I can. So it is lengthy, but I will be concise. So just thank you again for allowing this item to be pulled from the consent agenda for discussion. When I noticed the item was on the agenda, I was interested in diving deeper into the SSD partnership agreement. This was of interest to me as I review our district achievement data in our targeted schools. An area of concern is our subgroup achievement for our students with IEPs. Upon reviewing the review of the educational partnership agreement, many questions came to my mind. So much so that I did a sunshine law request on data from SSD, which I will highlight in a moment. As a board, it is our duty to serve the children of Ferguson-Florissant School District, and it is my belief that we have an inequity with services from special school district compared to other districts within St. Louis County, and our students deserve better. If equity is truly at the forefront of the decisions as a board, as I believe it is, we must call out inequities and address them when it's presented. Therefore, I'm going to start with some items I want to highlight from the educational partnership agreement that I would like a further understanding on. Category 1, staffing. Our use of SSD staff for interventions for a systematic structure of multi-tiered interventions. How we share a successful review of potential adoption by other partner districts to explore alternative staffing models. How much of a discussion is FFSSD included in the staffing allocation discussion with special school district to ensure equity, transparency, and understanding of decision-making? How does our teacher and staff mobility rate compare to other districts? And what are the retention strategies for new teachers and paras? Category 2, PD. What professional learning and systematic support is designed around culturally proficiency and trauma-informed practices for both general education and SSD staff to meet all students' needs? Category 4, student services. How are we collaborating to design and implement multi-tiered systems of support for all students with or without IEPs? Category 5, collaboration to enhance continuous improvement. When was the last annual report to the Board of Education on the partnership agreement process? Category 6, access to data. What is the jointly developed data dashboard for all students that address each of the measures identified under the student services category of the agreement? This data I requested comes from Rockwood, Hazelwood, Melville, Lindbergh, Rittner, and Ferguson-Florissant school districts. Specifically, I inquired about total staffing and benefit amounts per district, number of minutes serviced in both the general education and SPED setting, number of related services, achievement data, number of staff, percentages of students participating in SSD CTE programs. I believe this data will highlight the inequities that exist. Just a few hours ago, I received most of my sunshine law items. I've not had a time to dig fully deeply into the information, but I want to highlight 2 initial points. Comparing these districts and the number of service minutes provided in the general education and SPED settings compared to the number of full-time teachers. FFSD on average has each teacher servicing 7,869 minutes, while those in Rockwood are servicing 5,814 minutes, and in Lindbergh, 6,000 minutes, and in Rittner, 8,361 minutes. The 3 North County districts teachers are providing on average 1,700 more minutes of service per education special ed staff member. While reviewing academic achievement, Students with an IEP in St. Louis County, Ferguson Florissant scholars with an IEP have the 4th lowest ELA achievement in 2019 and the 3rd lowest in math behind Normandy and Riverview of all of St. Louis County. These are just 2 points to me that are the tip of the iceberg in terms of massive inequities that exist, and I question how this is a partnership. I believe as the governing board that's responsible for the education for the students in Ferguson Florissant, we deserve information and answers prior to just rubber stamping an agreement that is inequitable. We have much work to do to support all. Our teachers work hard each and every day, and I've personally witnessed the differences in services offered in various SSD partner districts, and I believe we must know why. The taxpayers of our community deserve equitable services as we provide SSD nearly $1.4 million from our ADA state funding. Our taxpayers pay nearly 44 cents per every $100 in assessed valuation. And all of this is while SSD sits on a reserve budget of nearly $250 million and is currently spending $10 million to update their central office from 1990s in 2022-2023. I say all this to say, I ask my colleagues on this board to table this vote and to encourage Dr. Davis to have a conversation with Dr. Keenan, SSD superintendent, to find out more information and get answers to some of these questions. Lastly, to consider having Dr. Keenan herself attend our board meeting to answer some of these questions and follow up with an honest conversation and discussion. I want to thank our teachers again for their tireless effort. Our data shows we need more assistance, support, and innovation to meet all, particularly our students who receive special education services. And Madam President, I hope that everyone else will join me in tabling this item on behalf of the children until we get the warranted answers. Thank you.
More discussion.
I would like to thank Dr. Martin for diving into this so deeply.
Yes.
You addressed all the things that have come up, you know, but just in such an eloquent way. So I really appreciate the effort and time that you put into researching all of that to bring all of those issues to the forefront. They are definitely issues that need to be talked about.
And
I would like to go.
No, go ahead. Go ahead.
No, I'll just go ahead and make the motion, but go ahead.
Yeah, I was going to say, I have talked with Dr. Martin about some things, and he's brought some things to light too. And, you know about it and you hear about these things, but when you look at the inequity of how students are treated in North County as compared to West County students, I don't understand. I really don't understand. I mean, even something as simple as music therapy. Okay, some people are actually receiving that. I don't know if we get any of that in North County. So I would agree that, them sitting on 200 and some odd $1 million when our students are really suffering, and it's showing. And then the big thing too that Dr. Martin brought out, why are our teachers having a much larger caseload with students who are the neediest students in North County as compared to West County? Why is that? And it's probably because we've allowed it to go on without saying anything about it. And I too want to pat Dr. Martin on the back and to say, thank you for delving into this, because I wasn't aware of it. I have to admit that. And after him sharing some of this information, I don't want to agree with this at this point as one board member. Dr. Knowles, you were going to speak?
Yes, ma'am. Thank you. I just want to say I do have a dashboard, and Dr. Keenan is very transparent with data. So if that's a letter that was submitted to her, I am certain that she will return with a response. Being a new superintendent to SSD, she's never been a part of a system like this, and she had many questions similar to yours. And if you look at the data, there have been a lot of changes since then, even in terms of the way that we can support Third Floor fiscally. So there were a lot of changes that were needed, and she's made progress towards making those changes. And being one voice on that governing council of 22, you have a lot of authority. So taking those concerns to the governing council meeting is a great place to start. Yeah, well, you sent the letter already, but that's usually because that is our governing body. The role that you play on that committee gives you authority to get that information that you've shared out there with the other 21 representatives sitting at that table from the partner districts to begin to make change. And there's a core spirit of equity in that team, just as it is here. We are all fighting for all students to get what they need, when they need it, and how they need it. I am a resident of Ferguson Florissant. I'm a Florissant. I am a graduate of McClure, and I am committed to this work. I can appreciate those concerns that you raised. And if I can do anything ever to support your processing of the data, get you any data around what services look like in any of the other districts, just to let me know. We all have access to the same numbers.
Just a point of clarity, I did not send a letter to Dr. Keenan. I did sunshine request to get specific data. So again, this is again, I don't want it to, it's nothing against you, Dr. Nails. It is really a systematic thing that to me, the inequities truly shine, that there are 1,700 minute difference. Just to put it in perspective, in our partner district of Hazelwood, they have 300,000 more minutes of service than Rockwood, but only have 0.5 more teachers than Rockwood has.
Wow.
And so I think for me, again, I'll say it quickly and I'll be done. I would like the board to motion to table this and have Dr. Davis have a conversation with Dr. Keenan to have more conversation around how we can get more equitable across St. Louis County, and for her or someone else from SSD Central Office to come back to report some information or have discussion with us in a workshop or a board meeting. $250 million is a lot. I'm not checking their checkbook, but certainly our kids deserve the best, and we have a huge inequity that exists. And in my eyes, we don't have time to waste. We don't have 5 years to wait to get equitable. So I appreciate your work on your behalf. This is not against you. This is against a system that we must address. And to me, if we rubber stamp a partnership agreement, it's just saying that we support the problem when we know the problem.
Yes, sir.
Dr. Graves.
Yes, I would like to make a motion that we table this into, I will go ahead and say our next board meeting, January 13th.
Can I get a second?
Second.
Call for the vote.
Mr. Ebert,
Aye.
Mrs. Hogshead,
You're muted.
Sorry, aye, sorry.
It's okay.
I'm sitting here making motions and everything and not knowing I'm muted. Sorry about that.
Dr. Martin,
Aye.
Ms. Bush,
Aye.
Dr. Graves,
Aye.
Dr. Paul Walker,
Aye.
and Dr. Thurman.
Aye. Again, thank you, Dr. Martin. Appreciate this. Okay.
Dr. Davis, we're having the follow-up conversation. That will be a fun follow-up conversation that he'll get to have with Dr. Keenan as well. So appreciate you supporting and fighting for our district as well, Dr. Davis.
Yes.
And I'll just say, I didn't want to say this beforehand, but I actually talked to Dr. Keenan today before this meeting because, you know, I wanted her to be, I know there were some concerns around this, and I met with Dr. Knowles too, but I reached out to her today already, so she's going to be expecting me to follow up. And, you know, I'd love to get that data you have too, Dr. Martin, because that's a great, I mean, those minutes, the staffing pieces that you looked at, I think those are really great questions to ask and to pull out, because I think those inequities can be laid bare so that she and I and all of us can see it. But I will also say, you know, so we've had this conversation quite a bit as a district when it comes to the inequities that are out there. I appreciate the board taking this position on it because it is clear that, you know, there are issues there. But the one thing I always talk about is the fact that we have schools that are targeted. Our targeted schools are targeted because our students with IEPs are underperforming. We're not giving them what they need, and we've got to change that. So I appreciate the work, and I'll follow with her ASAP.
Okay, and our board members who are on the committee, I know it's Tiffany Bush, and who, is there another? Or is it just Tiffany?
So Dr. Paul Walker, I think is.
I'm also.
Okay, okay. Okay. Item number 14, COVID-19 pandemic data and reentry monitoring. And this is for board information only.
Good evening, Board of Education. Before I start tonight's Board of Education update on COVID-19, I would like to point out that, as Dr. Davis mentioned earlier, our communication department has created a widget and placed in our district website for weekly updates on COVID-19 and its impact on our community and staff. As you can see right now, if I go to our district website, you can see that we have dedicated a location for our COVID-19, which shares information with public, with our community about staff members with positive cases, how many staff members are quarantined, our community cases, and cases in children. If I click on the hyperlink below that, you can just see that we give far more detailed information, explanation about why we have this information. To give information, we update it on a weekly basis on Fridays. We also give additional information, how many new cases are there, with explanation about each one of those things in far more detail. And all this information, again, it's available to everyone in our district and anywhere else. Continuing on this evening, I will be sharing 3 metrics related to the analysis of COVID-19 pandemic in our district. And those 3 metrics are rate of test positivity, which is a percentage of positive tests, 7-day average new case rate, and transmission rate, which refers to the number of new cases of COVID that will result from each existing case. For example, a transmission rate greater than 1 indicates that there will be an increase in the rate of new cases. We'll compare data from the state of Missouri, St. Louis County, and zip codes serviced by Ferguson-Florissant School District. This slide displays the transmission rate specific to Greater St. Louis region. The initial transmission rate of 3.38 is reflective of transmission before intervention was put in place regionally. Rates had been holding steadily, well over 1 for several weeks, but have fallen over the last week to 1.08. This indicates that for each 100 cases of COVID regionally, 108 new cases will result. This graph displays the daily percentage of tests taken that have had a COVID positive results in St. Louis County, calculated by using all tests performed on a given date as the denominator and positive test outcomes as the numerator. Current positivity rates are holding over 18.5%, placing FFSD in the category of high risk of transmission in schools according to CDC guidelines. Data which you are viewing is driven from St. Louis Education Task Force. This is the percentage of positive tests in total, rather than the percentage of positive tests per day. And this reflects the percentage of positive tests since February. We can see that FFSD comes in as 6th highest in positive tests among many of our neighboring districts. Beginning July 1st, the Harvard Global Health Institute launched a key matrix for COVID suppression framework to provide clear guidance about how to target and suppress COVID-19. HGHI guidance is based on this normalized matrix of 7-day rolling average of daily new cases per 100,000 people. This is also the guidance currently endorsed by Education Plus. According to HGHI guidance, daily new cases of less than 1 people indicate a risk level of green and on track for containment. An average of 1 to 9 new cases daily indicates a yellow risk level where community spread is occurring. When the average daily new cases reach 10 to 24 daily, the risk level is orange with accelerated spread at this level. Stay-at-home orders are advised. An average of 25 or more new cases daily indicates a red risk level where stay-at-home orders are necessary. This graph displayed the 7-day rolling average of new cases per 100,000 people applied to the 10 zip codes served by Ferguson-Florissant School District. Risk levels are indicated by the background color in the graph. New case rates increased steadily in FFSD zip codes through the school year. A recent peak of 72.82 was reached on November 26, with a subsequent decline to 59.9 as of December 7th. This table shows the 7-day average new case rate per 100,000 in each zip code served by Ferguson-Florissant School District for the last 2 weeks. Now, there has been an overall decrease of 9.9% in new cases from the last week of November. However, we are still at red risk levels. These numbers are still all fall within the red risk levels. To recap, I shared transmission rate data and referred to the number of new cases of COVID that will result from each existing case. Also noted that transmission rate greater than 1 indicates that there will be an increase in the rate of new cases and COVID will continue to spread quickly. Also, positivity rate was referred to the percentage of positive tests relative to the number of tests performed. In addition, the new case rates were explained as measured as a 7-day average of new cases scaled to the rate of cases per 100,000 people. Now, new case rates in FFSD have increased from 55.59 to 59.9, a 7.8% increase over the past 4 weeks. The transmission rate is 1.08 and positivity rate 17.8%. New case rates place FFSD in the red risk level with transmission rates indicating continued spread. My final statement before ending this presentation is each of those 3 matrices places FFSD at increased risk level of transmission of COVID-19 in our schools at current levels. This will conclude my monthly update on current status of COVID-19 for Board of Education information. Thank you.
Thank you, Dr. Jadali. Are there any questions from the board? I'm sorry to hear those numbers and see that we are continuing to stay in the red or that we're in the red this week.
I do have a quick question. Have we seen any large increase? I don't think necessarily from Thanksgiving as much as some anticipated. I know there was some data discrepancies because data wasn't necessarily dropped from Thanksgiving time-ish, but I'm just curious. By now we should have all the Thanksgiving-ish data. Do you believe that's all included in there now?
Yeah, well, these are all the data that we have collected from those various entities that I mentioned earlier. So if there was there was a slight decline, it was not even an increase, but however, the levels are high.
Thank you.
Okay, any other questions? Okay. Again, thank you, Dr. Jadali, for your report.
My pleasure.
This was for board information only. Reentry task force update, Dr. Parker.
Good evening again. I'm going to go ahead and share my screen real quick. As Dr. Davis mentioned earlier, we heard the feedback and wanted to make sure we shared what was returned. So that's the graphic that you see. As you can see here, we had just over 1,800 responses for students. There were many more that were emailed in after it had closed that are not reflected here. The results are very similar to the preliminary survey that we did send out several weeks ago, about a 40-60 ratio of in-person versus virtual. With that in mind, as we continue planning, we've made site visits, inquired with other districts who have returned about lessons learned. We are working to coordinate communication for each building in addition to updates on the website in regards to safety precautions, support, and procedures. Along with Terry's team, we're looking at school readiness. You heard earlier some of the concerns in regards to small spaces, so ensuring we have adequate space to serve all students. In addition to the spaces in classroom, I'd be remiss if I didn't mention the work being done to also address the social emotional needs of our staff and students. All of our cabinet members, administrators, nurses, and instructional coaches have gone through the Johns Hopkins course earning the certificate. In the interim, we are engaging in conversations about schedules at all levels, ongoing support, and continued professional learning. Questions?
Let me also add a little bit to what Dr. Parker has already said. I met Monday night with my parent advisory council, and that was a large part of our conversation. We spent about 2 hours having some really good conversations, and board members, I know many of you have received emails and concerns, and so we put pause. I sent a letter out. We paused on the declaration component of it because of the concerns we were hearing from parents and teachers. And I just want to acknowledge it here. That effort was put forward because none of us know what the data is going to look like in January. And so when the board makes a decision in January, we have to be thinking about and planning for, potential reentry in the third quarter. What I did say to parents, and I'll continue to focus on, is we're going to do everything we can to plan and get ready. And so if the board says, we're going to go back in this way or that way, we have thought about how do we prepare our teachers, because there's a lot of work that needs to be done there. We're going to try to do some of that now anyway, to be strategic. But the other part we did was we asked, it was about 21 people on the call. And of those on the call, we asked a simple question: who would go back today, yes or no, right? Just to sort of be consistent with the data we've gotten in the past, save the declaration part. Just Monday night, 68% of the people on the call said, I would not return. 32% said I would. And so we got some qualitative data too. We did a thought exchange with them. Safety certainly is the matter that rose to the top. They got to put their own thoughts in and rank those thoughts. That was an issue. Transportation was another concern. Ventilation and the different ways in which the buildings are prepared for return if we return in January. So just trying to keep our parents not only informed, but really hearing their voices. And so we'll continue to do that work. When emails come, we read and try to respond as fast as we can so that we are responsive to our parents. So we just wanted to give you that update. Dr. Jadali gave you the data. Dr. Parker is leading the task force that's involving lots of people across the district. Students, you want their voices at the table, teachers, and parents, because it's going to be a concerted effort. So this is just for information, but I wanted to add those pieces in it too.
I do have a couple quick questions, Dr. Thurman, if I may.
Go ahead.
It'll be quick, and it's my first time getting to ask a question, Dr. Parker. So it's like such an honor to be able to ask a question. But no, certainly I appreciate, the work that you guys did to pause the reentry and declaration. I think there's a lot of remaining questions that, my question as living through going back and parents choosing and all of that. One thing is, again, I think we asked this before, but I know semesters coming up to change. How long, because I do know staffing is going to have to change. I mean, it's inevitable when you have kids coming back to school and kids staying virtual, unless you just make teachers do both at the same time, which is an awful concept, which is up to you all to decide. But how long out do you really need from a board's decision to have then go back to figure out staffing and figure out parent choice? Realistically, are we looking at that? An honest answer, because you can tell me 2 weeks and I'm gonna tell you you're crazy, because I've lived through it already of how we manage it. And so I'm just curious, with the new semester coming up, I know that's a right time to kind of transition schedules and all of those things, but also I know we're not making a decision today as well. So I'm just curious, how much time, Dr. Park, do you think the task force would need from a board decision to fully return to offer virtual and in person at the same time?
Dr. Martin, first of all questions you could ask me right now, that particular question. Here's what I can tell you. The things that we've talked about in the task force, there's a no-win situation, right? And so that's why we've continually tried to garner some feedback and get from, the first preliminary survey to even the last declaration. So going off of that 40% in person is what we've been kind of using as our guide. So if we go back 40%, what does that look like at every level? The other thing that we've discovered is elementary versus secondary have to be separate. We can't plan the same schedules. In fact, high school has to be separate from middle school. And so with that being said, Dr. Bland has had multiple conversations at the high school level. She has more set for the middle school level. That's where some of these conversations have gone of what has worked, what hasn't worked, because you mentioned concurrent teaching, right? And so when you have singleton classes, you almost have no choice whether that teacher has to remain virtual or that teacher has to remain or is in person. One way or another, students are going to have to be present. And so again, it's complicated. And so when you say, how many days do you need back? I will be honest, we had a conversation today about how much time do our teachers need? And so the reality of that is it varies. We have teachers who retired last year. Their things are still in the classroom that we have to get new teachers in, right? So we have teachers who haven't been back in the buildings. And so when we look at, again, we're bare minimum of what we need to have ready in those classrooms, it's still going to take some time. And so right now we're between 5 and 10 days to be realistic, but I saw that reaction. The other challenge is, and what we've really been talking about, and one of the reasons why we tried to send that declaration so early is to provide secondary staff and principals time to do those schedules. Because you heard the parent earlier, right, that had the comment made. And so we understand that some of these schedules have to be different. The other thing that we understand is however we start second semester at secondary, we really have to stay. So we can't start and then say, okay, well, in a month, now we're going to go back in person and change that schedule. That's not in anyone's best interest. And so we're trying to be really intentional. And so my best answer right now is we're trying to plan as much as we can ahead, but also knowing that in reality, 5 to 10 days, because we don't have necessarily 2 whole weeks that we can't have teachers in front of students, right? Students are at the forefront. We already have a number of Ds and Fs. And so that's where in the interim, and that's what I meant in the interim of what are we doing? How are we adjusting schedules and trying the best to meet the needs of both staff and students?
Well, thank you for that answer. And certainly I have to chuckle for part of it just because I've lived through various changes myself. And I know it is an enormous amount of work to figure out schedules. And so I will say as a board, we have been fortunate. I've told other board members in other districts, to be quite honest, we have not received, to my knowledge, any emails really pleading with us to come back in person yet. And I know in some other districts in St. Louis County, they have petitions going and threats to board members about returning in person. And so I will caution based on, and I've said it before to community, please reach out to the board if you have concerns or you want us to hear your voice directly outside of a board meeting. And the question I raise is, to me, there's no rush when the numbers aren't right now, because our community is, to me, speaking to us, they're not ready to go back yet. Because if we had a group of people ready to go back yet, I personally feel we would be hearing from them more. Our emails are public knowledge. My decision is different than my day-to-day job because it's in a different place. And I feel like what we hear from our community is they want to stay at home for right now. That's what I'm hearing from our parents that we have heard from. And also, I do think when we come down to making a decision, I do think it's important that we have that information for parents about who their teachers will be, what changes will be in place, if we'll be starting hybrid or 5 days a week, 4 days a week. I do think those questions that were raised by parents to the board in email are valid questions that they need answers to in order to make a decision about what is the best choice for them. I honestly could possibly envision us staying through spring break almost in virtual and looking last quarter. I'm not making any assumptions or statements, but I'm just looking at the science and the data and the way vaccinations are going. And again, I go to our community, at least from a board perspective, in my eyes, has spoken about staying virtual. We have not heard from the community asking to come back in person yet. And to me, if we're not hearing the community blatantly say that, now maybe some small areas, but I can't recall an email that we received that says, I want to come back in person right now. So that's all my statements. So thank you for the work and all the obstacles. I'm glad you're on that end making decisions. And I'll take the other end, the other parts of the day, but certainly appreciate that.
Thank you so much.
Dr. Thurman, can I add one more thing? I want to also mention that in light of everything else that's going on, we are also having those conversations about summer school and reimagining what that can look like for all students. So simultaneously, multiple conversations are going on to do what's best for our students and staff here.
Thank you so much for your work. We really appreciate you, Dr. Barker. Okay, number 16, first reading of a proposed 2021-2022 calendar. Philip Boyd, please. Hi there.
Good evening, all. Good to see you. Let me know if you need me to share my screen or if you have access to the calendar in front of you right now. Does everybody have access?
Please share.
Okay, can you see the calendar? All right, so really not a lot of surprises with this initial draft of the calendar. We have a start date of August 23rd. We have tried our best to try to balance out the calendar in the committee. And as you know, the committee also consists of members of the association. So as a result, we are going to be starting winter break right after or right on December 18th. We'll go through the full 2 weeks of winter break, and then the finals for first semester would then occur the second week of January. This has allowed us to balance out the first and second semester, so there's roughly a 4-day difference between the number of days in first and second semester. We really tried to push to make sure that we could end the year prior to June. And right now, unless there's additional changes that people see as necessary, we will be ending at the end of May.
Philip, how many school days is that for students?
174, Dr. Martin.
174, got it. And how many do they have this year?
174.
Gotcha.
Any other questions? This is for information only, or our first reading, I'm sorry.
The only other thing I would add then, when you think about days, because it often comes up, is that, we look at the numbers of hours, and certainly that's like with makeup days for snow days and all that, you have to have 36 hours. We have to have 1,044. So I think that's an important part too. Isn't there at the bottom some work numbers, Philip?
Not on this one, Dr. Davis, but on the other working one, it shows that the hours are over 1,100 for both elementary and secondary.
Right.
Okay. Any other questions or comments? Thank you, Dr. Boyd, for sharing the calendar. And I'm sure we'll get more information before our next board meeting.
Yes, ma'am. Thank you.
At this time, we may have a motion to adjourn.
So moved.
Second.
Go ahead, call.
I had to get my second first. I'm sorry. Mr. Ebert,
Aye.
Mrs. Hogshead,
Aye.
Dr. Martin,
Aye.
Ms. Bush,
Aye.
Dr. Graves,
Aye.
Dr. Powell Walker,
Aye.
Dr. Thurman.
Aye. Thank you, board. Thank you
Thank
so
you.
much.
Merry Christmas.
Have a
Happy
Hanukkah.
holiday, everyone. See you in 2021 when things are better.
Oh my.